then you want us drug, you want us poor, while you get more of everything. But you don't get to tell me what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell me what is true. 'Cause you're just liars, cheats and crooks, change the rules and you burn the books. And so I don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons, want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. You want us tricked, you want us numb, you want us scared and you want us stung. You want us shot and you want us bought in every way. You want our minds, you want our time, you want us framed up in your crime. I hope you know that it's time to go and we're taking names. 'Cause you don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell us what is true. 'Cause you're just liars, cheats and crooks, change the rules and you burn the books. And so we don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons, want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. You don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. You don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. You don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. 'Cause you're just liars, cheats and crooks, change the rules and you burn the books. And so we don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons, want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. 'Cause we're just liars, cheats and crooks, change the rules and you burn the books. And so we don't believe a single word you say. 'Cause we're all liars, fakes and cons, want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. We see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies.
The Florida Department of Health testing 46 candy products from 10 different companies, finding 28 had elevated levels of arsenic. 26 of the candies coming from very popular brands, things that our children are reaching for in the grocery store. This research is the next step in the state's Healthy Florida First initiative to bring transparency back to the grocery store.
You know, there's a reasonable expectation that our food supply, especially foods marketed to children, should not contain toxic chemicals. In 26 of the 33 traditional candy brands tested, arsenic was detected at elevated levels.
Well, here to tell us more is Florida's First Lady, Casey DeSantis. Great to have you with us, First Lady.
Good morning.
Good morning. I love this initiative because you started with baby formulas. And if you go on your website, which we'll give to the folks at home, you can see which baby formulas have things like mercury in it, have things like arsenic. And now you're focusing on the candies. Great job at the press conference yesterday. Tell us what your findings are.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we're finding you're right. We started with a baby formula. We found 16 of 24 baby formulas had elevated levels of arsenic, lead, cadmium, and mercury. And we said from the beginning, we're going to keep testing things in the food supply. So our next step is into the candy. And you revealed the results of that. Elevated level of arsenic, sometimes 30 and 40 times what other foods might presumably have. So it's very problematic that we're finding it. And also that consumers don't know that it's there, that parents don't know when they're going and they're giving their kids Nerds or Twix or what have you, that there's arsenic in it. And obviously arsenic in aggregate can be a big problem, especially for little kids.
Yeah, you talked about that yesterday. You said it could cause developmental impacts, effect on the immune system, and cancer even later in life. Before we get to the good candies, tell us some examples of what you found in the bad candies.
Yeah, so 20 and 40 times the amount of arsenic that we might find in other candies, right? And so this is problematic. But here's the thing. When you look at it, the context and perspective is really important. And our Surgeon General said it's not necessarily just one individual piece of candy. It's when you're eating a lot of it. So let me give you a definition of what a lot is. For Nerds, if you're consuming more than 96 Nerds, that is more than what you should be consuming in a year as it pertains to arsenic consumption. So kids aren't eating just 96 Nerds. When you think about a box typically has 2,000 Nerds in it, or one of those big boxes that you might get at a movie theater that has 8,000 Nerds. So 96, I mean, they're going to eat more than that. And then you look at arsenic in aggregate. So you look at Twix and another, Milky Way or what have you, and it starts to add up, and you're going well beyond what the Florida Department of Health would say is a safe level of arsenic, for a year.
Can you give us some more examples of what really stood out to you?
The whole. Yeah, well, the Nerds was a big one because that's something that my daughter eats a lot of. And now that, we're not going to do. Exposingfoodtoxins.com has all of the candies on there where you can get the specific information. But I have the sheet in front of me, like Sweet Tarts, Gummy Bears, Jolly Ranchers. If you eat more than 6 of the little Jolly Ranchers over the course of a year, that is exceeding the allowable threshold of arsenic in a year for children. Twizzlers, Kit Kats. Now, some of the better ones were Twix and Milky Way and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. And so that's the other thing, too. So what are we doing? We're trying to raise awareness, right, about these toxic chemicals being in food, but also highlighting the fact that there's a better way to do it. If some of these companies can do it without putting arsenic in the food, then the other companies should follow suit. And the other thing we're doing is not only are we doing independent testing, which I think is really important because we want to raise awareness, we're also calling on other states to help us as well. So if Arkansas and Tennessee and Georgia and Texas and everybody is doing preventative testing, then we can trust but verify what's in the food supply. So manufacturers, they put food out there, and then we can trust to make sure it's indeed what they say it is.
We only have 30 seconds. I just have to get the statement in from the company that makes those 3 candies that you focused on. The recent announcement from the state of Florida is misguided and demonstrates a glaring lack of transparency related to data-driven scientific safety thresholds and the elevation of confectionery products. Food safety and product quality remain our highest priorities, and we remain dedicated to being transparent and socially responsible, and we will follow the science. If you want the website, it's exposingfoodtoxins.com. Thank you, First Lady. Have a good.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.
You know those scary black box warnings you usually see on heavy-duty prescription drugs? The ones that basically say, pay attention, this stuff could actually kill you? Well, in 2026, those labels are moving out of the pharmacy and into your grocery cart. And once you see what's behind this change, you're never going to look at a box of crackers or a healthy granola bar the same way. If you're new here, my name is Lily. I'm a certified nutrition health coach. And y'all, we are in the middle of like a total health revolution. It is changing so quickly. I'm having a hard time keeping up over here. But today we are going to cover the 3 massive changes happening right now in the food world. 1, the not recommended for human consumption label, a new labeling law that is honestly making me laugh. I think it's hilarious. But for big food companies, they are furious. They're literally trying to sue to stop it. Secondly, we'll cover the global magnifying glass, why Canada and the US are putting little magnifying glasses on your food. And lastly, we'll cover the secret cleanup and lawsuits, how big food is fighting to keep you in the dark, meanwhile changing their product recipes. So whether you're a label reader or someone who just wants to be able to buy their food without needing a chemistry degree, well, these 3 changes affect everyone walking into the grocery store today. And my goal is to help keep you guys informed with all of the changes in our food supply and how to live your healthiest lives. And if you appreciate this kind of content, then don't be silly, subscribe to Lily, and let's jump in. The first big change is the not recommended for human consumption label. In 2025, Governor Abbott signed Senate Bill 25, the Make Texas Healthy Again Act. Now, if you don't live in Texas, you might be thinking, okay, so what does Texas have to do with me? I live in Missouri, or someone lives in California. But the thing is, this law is changing how Big Food labels their food. And a big food corporation doesn't want to have to change just the way a box and a label is for Texas and then make their boxes all different for other parts of the country. Instead, because Texas has such a massive market, whatever Texas ends up doing, the rest of the country ends up getting the benefits, eh? Thank you, Texas.
Texas could change the way Americans eat snack foods nationwide, requiring a warning label on many popular food and drinks, reading not recommended for human consumption.
That could impact candies like Skittles and M&Ms, chips, including Doritos and Ruffles, and drinks like Gatorade and Mountain Dew.
It's targeting products using ingredients like bleached flour, food dyes, sweeteners, oils, and preservatives. Those are legal and common in many processed foods in the U.S., but some have faced regulation in other countries.
I believe that the rest of the nation will look to Texas and say, they're on to something. And just maybe we can curb the trend of us spending more on healthcare than any other nation in the world.
This law targets 44 specific chemical additives like Red 40, Yellow 5, and titanium dioxide. This law requires a warning label that says, warning, this product contains an ingredient that is not recommended for human consumption by authorities in Australia, Canada, the EU, or the UK. I don't know why I find that so funny. Honestly, I guess it's supposed to be really sad that they would be incorporating ingredients in their products that are naughty. But, I think at this point I gotta just find the humor in it.
Most food dyes are made with synthetic petroleum-based chemicals. They have no nutritional value and are only used to enhance the colors of food. Kellogg's cereals, including Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks, contain Yellow 6, Yellow 5, Red 40, and Blue 1. According to the Cleveland Clinic, Red 40 can lead to hyperactivity, including ADHD, behavioral challenges like irritability and depression, skin irritation, and migraines. The other dyes have been shown to have negative side effects.
If you really think about it, the wording is so particular. It's not like they're saying you have to put a label that says contains artificial food dyes or a label that says low in nutritional value. Instead, it's literally a label that says not recommended for human consumption. This is what we're calling the black box of the grocery store. Traditionally, the black box warning was reserved for the most dangerous prescription drugs on the market. But now that same level of seriousness is hitting the food aisles. And sometimes I do wonder if by adding new labels to packages, if it's actually going to change how people shop and what they consume. Are people really going to stop buying things like Fruity Pebbles? I can't help but think that if a mom is reaching for some fruit snacks for her kids and sees this warning label of not recommended for human consumption, I do think it's going to be a psychological game changer. I mean, I know for myself, back when I used to eat more foods that were ultra processed and I was struggling with weight gain, acne, and irregular menstrual cycle, I was eating foods with these 44 ingredients every single day because I thought that if a food was on the shelf, then it was safe. But this law is now putting the truth front and center. You can't miss it. And so I really do hope that these black boxes are going to start changing how people shop and what we consume. That brings us to our second topic, the global magnifying glass front of package movement. As of January 1st, 2026, Canada has now officially flipped what's going on. And now if a food is high in sugar, saturated fat, or sodium, it now has to carry a little magnifying glass on the front.
Cereals, drinks, and other prepackaged foods in Canada's grocery stores will soon have the symbol of this black and white magnifying glass. It signals customers about foods that are high in fat, high in sugar, or high in salt. Food companies have until January 1st to apply the front label. It's an addition to the nutritional value table that's much easier to read.
It's simple, it's visual, and it interprets the data for you. And even though this is happening in Canada, at this point, the MAHA movement and RFK Jr. are finalizing this similar kind of label here in the US. If a food is high in sugar or sodium, it will get a symbol on the front of the package as well. We are finally treating ultra-processed foods with the same caution that we give to pharmaceuticals. One of the biggest targets of these new high sugar or high sodium labels are sports drinks. You know, the ones that are neon blue and are basically sugar water with the side of Red 40. Red 40, the artificial food dye linked to hyperactivity in children and banned in other countries. Yeah, I don't touch any foods, sports drinks, or sodas with artificial food dyes in them. Instead, I use Element Electrolytes, today's video sponsor. I'm very picky about what I put into my body, and with Element, they don't have any of the 44 black box targeted ingredients. They have no Red 40, no titanium dioxide, no synthetic preservatives. Instead, Element is full of sodium, potassium, and magnesium, which has been a total game changer in how hydrated I feel. Having less eye twitching, less cramping, feeling like I'm just more energized, and helps prevent those afternoon brain fogs. And so if you'd like to help support this channel and try a clean way to stay hydrated, you can get 8 free packets of Element's most popular flavors with any order using the link in the video description, drinkelement.com/LilyKane. They also offer a money-back guarantee, so if you try it and you don't like it, you can get your money back. My personal favorite flavors are the watermelon, but also I like to put the chocolate salt and the salted caramel salt in my yogurt, and it's super yummy. All right, let's move into the secret cleanup and lawsuits. Unsurprisingly, Big Food is losing its literal mind. They are doing 2 things. First, they are suing. They've filed massive federal lawsuits claiming that by telling you an ingredient is not for human consumption, that's a violation of their free speech.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
They're literally fighting for the right to keep you in the dark. Big Food's argument here is basically, we have the right to put chemicals in your foods without you feeling scared about it. But the MAHA movement, led by RFK Jr. and HHS Secretary Marty Makary, they're saying that the scare is actually just the truth. For decades, these companies put the artificial food dyes and other funky chemicals they're adding to their products in tiny font on the back of their packages. And now the truth is being dragged to the front. And so the second thing that big food companies are doing is they're changing their recipes. Have you noticed lately some of your favorite snacks having the label new recipe or even now made without artificial food dyes?
Introducing Simply Naked. PepsiCo removing the artificial dyes from Cheetos and Doritos, making them totally colorless. The idea here from the company is that they are reinventing some of its most iconic snacks, Doritos and Cheetos, 2 types each, and they're basically removing some of those artificial dyes and flavors.
Yeah, that's not because these companies care about your health all of a sudden. It's regulatory avoidance. These companies are slowly removing these 44 ingredients from their recipes so that way they don't have to put that scary black box warning label on the front of their package. So in a weird way, it's kind of like those black box labels are already working without being fully implemented.
Kellogg's will stop using the food colorings by 2027. The company told Straight Arrow News, "We see the growing focus on health as an opportunity to meet consumer needs in even more meaningful ways." Companies including Kraft Heinz, Hershey, Tyson's, and others have made verbal commitments.
Now, again, not necessarily because Big Food suddenly cares about your health, but you know, either way, it's working and I'll take it as a win. A lot of people don't know that Goldfish crackers are 68 years old. Cool Whip is 60 years old. Doritos chips are 62 years old. The majority of foods in the grocery store now that people think of as normal didn't even exist for our grandparents. And so for the past 70 years, we've been told that these foods, they're totally fine. And now we're finally having some labeling on the package that is telling the truth. 2026 is the year where the food industry finally has to show their cards. Now, whether the FDA actually makes these laws mandatory across the country or whether the big food industries win their lawsuits, it really doesn't matter at this point because the cat is out of the bag and people are now starting to ask, wait, what is this in my food? The black box movement isn't about the government telling you what to eat. It's about restoring the choice that was taken away from us for 70 years. But you know what doesn't get a black box warning label? The ribeye steak, the pasture-raised eggs, the blueberries. While big food corporations are trying to explain why their chemicals are safe for you and your family to consume, real food is just being real food. It's just one ingredient. It doesn't need a label. It has nothing to hide. We don't need to have these magnifying glass and black boxes on real food. Real health is built by stepping outside the system and just getting back to the basics. And if you enjoyed this video, I know you're going to be curious about how AI is impacting our food and the food products being produced. I'll leave that video right here. Don't be silly, subscribe to Lily, and I hope you have a happy day.
Why the hell is this cheese not melting? What's going on? I'm gonna let it just sit on it for a second, cause what? The heat is high. What's going on? What are they feeding us?
Oh my God, what kind of formaggio is that? It's not like the real stuff out here in Italy. Are people in the USA eating plastic? And what about the meat? As this guy points out, what is that meat?
Is it just me, or is food not fooding right now? Like, I've been a chef for nearly 30 years. I went and bought some inexpensive $10 a pound 80/20 Black Angus to make burgers on the grill today. While it's cooking, the smell hit my nose and I said, this don't smell right. I pull it apart, I look at it, I get it done, and then I realize it's like Play-Doh. See, ground beef, when it comes out of the extruder, it has strings, and you can see them in the ground beef. This was more like putty, almost like silly putty, like that slime that you see that they make burgers, like frozen burger patties with, institutionalized food. This is $10 a pound on sale, private selection, Black Angus, 80/20. And I'm going to tell you, it crumbles like it. This ain't beef. You can fool me all you want. This ain't frickin' beef. What are we eating, folks? What the hell are we eating?
You know what? I'm just gonna go get some fast food. But $17 for a Whopper? You're out of your mind.
$17 for a Whopper in San Francisco. How much is a Whopper in your state?
80 for Houston passenger.
Guns don't kill people, people kill people. Okay, in that case, bread doesn't make sandwiches, people make sandwiches. Cars don't drive people to work, people drive people to work.
Hey friends, have you felt it? I'm wondering if I'm alone here. You know, you walk into the store and something feels different. It's just different. It's not just the prices or the shrinkflation. It's not even just the out of stocks. It's like this subtle shift is occurring. Yeah, it's like a hum underneath the system. The engine's making a noise, you know? And today, I want to talk about that. Not from panic, definitely not politics, and not from fear, because those are not where we do our best. more from awareness, being aware. Because when something feels different, there's usually a reason for it. And taking the time to try to be aware of it and then figure out the reasons, that's big. If we understand the reason for it, we respond with more wisdom and less emotion, because responding from emotion rarely benefits anybody. It's kind of like when you learn to read a room, you know? We're learning how to read the system because we need to figure out what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how we can become better prepared for when it occurs. Because preparedness, I want to reiterate, is not fear. So today we're going to talk about why food feels different this year, because it does. What's actually shifting underneath the surface, you know, what that means for our households, because at the end of the day, that's where it's important, and exactly what we need to focus in on in 2026. Take a deep breath. Yeah. And let's try to look at this clearly. If this were just inflation, it would be pretty straightforward. You know, prices go up, we adjust. We've always adjusted. We adapt, and life just goes on. We just continue, you know. But this year it feels layered, like there's more there than just those. So what people are noticing, tell me if you are, more store brands are dominating shelf space. Absolutely, right? The national brands are disappearing or they're consolidating. There's not as many offered. Bulk sizes in things that we used to get bulk sizes are not available anymore. Ingredient changes with familiar foods. Yeah. More temporarily unavailable tags on the shelves or on the coolers. And wider price springs week to week, you know. That one really hits hard. That isn't random. That's literally structural pressure. That's what we're feeling. And when pressure builds inside of a system, you feel it before you understand what it is. So your feelings, they're valid. They really are. Food feels differently because the system underneath it is under some significant stress that I don't think most people are even aware of. So let's talk about the 4 big pressures that are quietly reshaping food, or not so quietly. The average American farmer is nearly 58 years old. Yeah. The average truck driver is over 46 years old. And food processing labor shortages remain ongoing. Nobody wants to do that job. There are fewer young people that are entering farming, long-haul trucking, food processing, or the skilled trades, you know. Less labor will equal tighter margins, which equals less redundancy. And redundancy, as any good prepper knows, is important. When a system has no buffer at all, small disruptions will ripple a lot faster and a lot farther. What a lot of people may not know, because it's behind the curtain, okay? In many categories, 3 to 5 companies control the majority of processing, the majority of it. When one plant goes offline, it affects entire regions. And think about that a little bit, because if you've been paying attention at all in the news for the last few years, there are processing plants burning down here, burning down there, closing here, closing there, you know. And so it's happening. That is fragility right there. That is absolutely fragility. It's not dramatic. You might see it pop up on the headline for like a minute, you know, but after that, it's gone. It's not dramatic at all. It's literally mathematical. And not enough people are paying attention to the math. So less decentralization equals more systematic vulnerability. And we are all becoming much more vulnerable as a result of what is happening. Let's look at transportation, for instance, okay? Food travels an average of 1,500 miles to land on your plate. Yep. Every increase in fuel costs, insurance, maintenance, labor, okay? That adds more pressure onto the system. Even if prices, stabilize briefly, the volatility still remains. It's still there. And that's why one week chicken is on sale and the next week it spikes significantly. It's not random, really. I mean, if you may think that it's random, but it's not random. It's the cost pressure passing through. So there's always cause and effect. The next one is climate and crop volatility, because those are happening. I mean, big time. Look at the price of coffee. That is due to climate and crop volatility, okay? Droughts, floods, unpredictable growing seasons. Yeah. Whether we agree on cause doesn't matter. That has no, skin in the game right now for this conversation. Volatility in yield equals volatility in price. And so when harvests tighten globally, exports shift. And you feel it locally. It's just the way that it works. And anybody that drinks coffee is aware of that. Okay, that's probably the most glaring one that comes to mind right now. So why it feels different is, it's actually kind of easy to figure out once you sit down and think about it. It's the emotional layer, Food has always been stable in our lifetimes. It's always been stable. Even if income, wasn't stable, the availability of it was. I'm not necessarily saying that right, but the food has always been there, for us to get if we could. So that's what I mean by stable. It's abundant, it's accessible, it's predictable, so much so that, so much of it goes to waste. But when that predictability shifts, yeah, even slightly, your nervous system notices. It's not fear, it's instinct, literally. It's instinct. Food is primal. And so that instinct is something that we need to pay attention to. So when food prices fluctuate rapidly, right? Shelves are looking thinner, brands consolidate, portions shrink. Okay. Your body registers it. It's, even if your mind is going, yeah, okay, but your body registers that that's happened. And so it's instinct. It's not overreacting. Seriously. It's awareness. It's just simply being aware that it's happening. But awareness without action can become anxiety, and that's what we don't want, because prepared people are not as anxious as everybody else, okay? So our goal here is to act strategically so that we don't have to deal with the anxiety. What this means for households, because, our home is our castle. It's our sanctuary. It's important. And here's the truth. We are entering at least a decade of lower redundancy, at least. Not collapse, not complete catastrophe, but tighter systems, period. That's where we're at. And tighter systems require smarter households. If they're going to make the systems tighter, we must, absolutely must, make the households smarter. There are 3 realities that we need to accept. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You just have to accept it, okay? 1, volatility is the new normal, even more so than 60 is the new 40, Volatility is the new normal. Stable pricing cycles are going to become less common. So it's something that we need to watch and be aware of. 2, bulk buying windows are going to become much more narrow. When prices dip, they may dip briefly, as opposed to, oh, we've got a sale for a whole week. Maybe we've got a sale for a day, So we have to be prepared to act on them or to just not need them. Number 3, local matters more than ever. And there's always been the grassroots, buy local, shop local, support your neighbors, that kind of thing. But regional supply chains may outperform global ones in certain categories. And so we need to see which ones are around us and start building those relationships. Now, let's talk about solutions, because I hate just talking about problems. There have to be solutions in order to move forward, okay? So we're going to do this strategically and calmly. I hope that you'll do it strategically and calmly. Number one is work on building a 3-month, buffer, okay? Now, shoot for that 3 weeks, because you're going to learn a lot by building that 3-week buffer. But once you hit that 3-week buffer, then your next goal should be 3 months. And if you don't, not 3 weeks, 3 months, food, paper goods, cleaning supplies, pet food, that's important too. They're part of the family. 3 months reduces stress, literally, by 80%. I don't know about you, but I could have an 80% stress reduction anytime now, So having that buffer, having that insurance will automatically reduce your stress. And it makes the sunshine just a little bit brighter, In order to do this, you need to focus on some categories. So it's not about, going out and, buying a bunch of junk food. Seriously. Prioritize proteins. Your canned meats, fats, oil, shortening, shelf-stable butter, that kind of stuff. Grains, your rice, your wheat, your oats, salt and seasoning, okay? Because it makes everything taste better, right? And your baking essentials, you can do so much at home that will save you so much money. And, you'll find another way to enjoy being. Luxury items can rotate in later, so that shouldn't be your priority. But stability first should be those things. Those are the categories that you want to work on first in order to just be more stable in your household, Skills will always be a preparedness item. Always, okay? But you don't have to learn them all at once. You can actually divide it up in the year. We're still in the first quarter. We're halfway through the first quarter. You still talks about 24 forever foods and another one that talks about different ways to store your food. I'll link those two, in the description box below. But learn about that. You have 6 weeks. You can do it. Okay. Quarter 2, water storage and purification. So for 3 months, you have 3 months to learn everything that you can about water storage and purification. And it just so happens that it's in the summer, so it's a great time to learn it. Quarter 3, meat preservation, whether that is canning or freeze drying, whatever. Meat preservation is a great thing to learn. And then quarter 4, the perfect time, because everybody nests a little bit more in the fall and the winter, right? Meal planning from your pantry only. It's a great skill to develop. Those are 4 skills that you can learn this year, 2026. Skills reduce fragility, which reduces vulnerability. Skills will take you so far. Now, another thing to do is to make sure that you're watching systems and not headlines, okay? Well, how do you find out about it if you're not watching the headlines? The headlines are a hot mess right now, in case you haven't watched the news in a while. So set up your Google alerts or something like that, for key phrases or for certain reports, so that you can scan those. It literally will take you 5 or 10 minutes. Do it over coffee in the morning. Do it sometime in the afternoon. Do it, instead of watching the news at night. And the things that you want to watch are transportation strikes, fuel trends, crop reports, okay? and processing plant disruptions. Those 4 things. And by watching those and kind of paying attention to the trend of them, it's a pattern recognition, and that's what preparedness is, pattern recognition. When you become more aware of these things happening and that there seems to be a bit of a pattern to it, you're going to work at being more prepared so that they don't impact you and your household. Now, strengthen local connections because it's so important. I know I don't talk to people. Okay, so you have to shop at some point, right? Farmers markets are a great place. Local butchers, co-ops, your Azure Standard bulk buying group, you know. Azure Standard is a great way to get to know people. You don't even have to be BFFs. You can just say hi and smile. People talk because that's what people do. They talk. It's a fantastic little short-term commitment, you know, and you get groceries out of it. It's great. I have a link down below that you can check out. You can click on it to see if there's an Azure drop near you and see, you know, check the website, see what's on there, see if it's something that you might be interested in, because it's a great opportunity for bulk buying if you want to do bulk buying, but it doesn't have to be bulk buying because they have smaller quantities also. You have to remember that decentralization increases resilience, okay? So we need to get in there. We need to get in there. Food feels different because the system is under pressure, you know. Pressure doesn't mean panic. It means pay attention. Literally, just pay attention. This is not the year to be reactive. We got enough stuff going on, okay? It's the year to be intentional. And intentionality will take you so far. We're not hoarding, so if anybody tells you that, just walk away. It doesn't even deserve a response anymore, you know? We're stabilizing our households. We're not afraid. We're aware. And there's a big difference there, big difference. Awareness gives you options. So today, take inventory, you know? What do you actually have? What are you missing? Yeah. And what would 3 calm months look like for your household? That's what you need to answer right there. It's about confidence today, because preparedness is not about fear of tomorrow. That's just not what it is. It's about confidence today. So until next time, everybody, be safe. Keep stacking it to the rafters, my friends.
Grass-fed beef is the biggest scam on the planet. It's a complete lie. What I'm going to share with you is going to piss you off. Less than 1% of beef sold in the US is truly grass-fed. This whole idea of grass-fed is just filled with loopholes all over the place. In 2016, the USDA dropped the official definition of grass-fed. All of the cows are grass-fed. It's the last 3 to 6 months where they're fed other things, like grains and some other ingredients that I had no idea about. Over 99% of all the beef that people are buying is not fully grass-fed, despite what it says on the label. There is a tremendous amount of beef sold to America from other countries. Then with a little bit of processing, like packaging the beef, it now becomes a product of the US. In other words, this country of origin labeling rule was repealed, which means revoked, for both beef in pork. Here's just another example of a lack of transparency where, you know, well, at least if it's from America, it's probably healthier when it's actually not even coming from America. And by the way, as a side note, did you know that when you eat a burger from a fast food place, the number of cows that hamburger comes from literally can be over 100 different sources, because they have this entire processing plant where they're getting meat from all over the place. What people need to realize is what we're talking about is a cow that's very sedentary, that is fatty. And the reason why it's tender is because it has barely any collagen. And without collagen, it's very, very tender. People do like marbled meat that's tender, but what they don't want to know about is how that animal is raised, because what I'm going to tell you now is literally going to make you fall off your chair. And it's what these animals actually eat. You might think, well, grains, well, it's probably a bucket of whole grains, pretty healthy. No, they actually feed these animals in the feedlot something called DDGS, and that stands for dried distillers grain with solubles, aka the waste product from making ethanol. They take dent corn, which is field corn, it's inedible, you can't eat it. What are they going to do with this GMO waste product filled with glyphosate? It's basically the toxic byproduct from making ethanol. And what I found out is because of the subsidies, taxpayers' contribution to this, the cost for 1 metric ton of this waste material that is fed to the animals is roughly $150. Now do you see why they can make so much profit on this? Because what they're trying to do is they need to put on about 600 pounds of extra weight on that cow. And the only way they can do it is with something so cheap, $150 per metric ton. Crazy. So that's the base. And then they add a little fiber. They add limestone, some synthetic vitamins and minerals. And then they add something else called monensin. It's an antibiotic. Antibiotics are used on a regular basis in feedlots in the US. And the reason why they use these antibiotics is because it increases weight gain. Even your grass-fed beef has been given antibiotics, unless it says on the label, no antibiotics. But that's not all. They also add in the US something called beta agonist. This is a medication that enhances the muscle growth to increase another 30 pounds of muscle. And it's something that mimics adrenaline. There's been some studies that show that that can actually increase anxiety in humans if you consume that food. So there's 2 types of feedlots. You have one that's closed, like indoor, and they have another one that's open. Let's talk about the one that's closed first. That animal, which is 1,500 pounds, only gets a space that is 24 square feet. If I were to ask you how much that is, you might have to measure it out. But let me just tell you, a parking space that you drive your car into is 128 square feet. So let's compare that, 20 to 24 square feet to 128 square feet. So basically it's 1/6 of a parking place, not a parking lot, a parking space. So basically you can fit 6 cows into 1 parking space. That's what they live in for 3 to 6 months. They have to make them sedentary and to add all this cheap food to gain the massive weight. So that way you can make the meat marbled and have it very tender, aka a very sick animal. That's what you're eating. Now the open space in the feedlot doesn't get that much more space. They get roughly about 150 square feet, which is about the same size as a little bit more than that parking space that I just talked about. But again, not much space. So how do you find truly grass-fed beef? You need to look for this, 100% grass-fed, because if it just says grass-fed, it doesn't mean anything. And I highly recommend you spend a little bit more for this higher quality of meat, because that way you support the small farmer that seems to be squeezed out of this marketplace. If you want details on how to do the diet, I put that video up right here. Check it out.
HHS Secretary RFK Jr. is going after the ultra-processed foods loophole. Joining us now to discuss is Emily Kaplan, co-founder and CEO of the Broken Science Initiative and MedFix, which offers a health curriculum that breaks down how the food we eat is used as energy or leads to chronic disease. So Emily, good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us today. Now, the secretary is referring to the grass example as a loophole. So a little background here, 1958 Congress enacted the generally recognized as safe exemption, which allows food companies to independently verify the safety of their ingredients as long as they're considered generally safe. So I brought a clip here with me, Emily, of RFK Jr. talking about it. So let's just take a quick look at that.
That loophole was hijacked by the industry, and it was used to add thousands upon thousands of new ingredients into our food supply. In Europe, there's only 400 legal ingredients. This agency does not know how many ingredients there are in American food.
So let me ask you, in your view, what is the importance of ending the grass exemption?
So, I mean, I think if you go back to 1958, right, when this was originally established, the added ingredients were things like salt or vinegar or baking soda, things that we can all sort of collectively agree these are probably safe. I think what has happened is that the chemical processes that are being used really with carbohydrates and sugars are clearly deleterious. Those are, you know, what make up most of the processed foods that we have. And I don't even know if you can consider some of these ingredients food. And so I think this is really sort of trying to pull back on what was intended to be things that were generally accepted as food additives that we would have in our kitchen. The things we're talking about now, you can't make in your kitchen at home. They have to be made in an industrialized plant. And so I think his point is that this has been hijacked in the sense that industry has come in and they've started adding all of these things to our food supply. And that really what's important to understand about this is that this exemption was made originally for things that we generally knew were safe. And now what's happened is that the manufacturers of these food products get to pick their own experts. They form a panel of their own experts who they pay to determine that these ingredients are not harmful. And so you can see right there that there's a massive risk of conflict of interest. Are these scientists that are on these panels being really rigorous about this? It's voluntary whether they let the FDA know about what they have found or what the new ingredients are. So there's a lack of oversight on all of this. And I think, one of the things that's always interesting to me is that we can all collectively agree, regardless of what, how partisan things are, that our healthcare system is broken and that we've really been sort of lied to about the food that we're eating being safe and being what is effectively, sort of providing our body with energy that we need rather than leading to disease, which is really what we focus on at MedFix. But I think this larger picture, we all agree. We don't want to be feeding our children or feeding ourselves foods that are made up of chemical components that have probably never really been tested. I mean, the other thing to add about the way that this works in practice is that the manufacturers decide that it's probably okay to have, and again, it's a standard of harm, not safety. So they're not proving it's safe, they're proving that it's not harmful, but they're not going back and re-looking at things that have been out there the way that you would in a long-term clinical trial where you would, any drug that's entered in has to be approved by the FDA. And then there are regular checkups to sort of look, are we seeing a signal in the data that this is actually not safe, or there are consequences or symptoms presenting that we didn't initially know. There's none of that in the food supply.
So, Emily, I'm also wondering here if this is a problem unique to the United States. I'm not an expert, but Kennedy in the clip earlier we showed said there's thousands upon thousands of ingredients in the U.S., while there's only about 400 in Europe. Why is that the case? Is this unique to the United States?
Well, I mean, I can speak to the regulatory process, which is almost the inverse in Europe. And so in order for you to get new additives added to the food supply there, it goes through a regulated body within the government, and they are checking to see if it is safe. So again, our standard is it's not harmful, and that's decided by the individual private companies that are making and selling the food. And as soon as they make that decision, they can put it on the shelves. In Europe, it's the inverse of that. So the government has to go through, they're picking people who have to expose their conflicts of interest if they have any. They're not supposed to have any ties to the food company. So you're cutting down on that bias potential. And then the government is deciding, okay, this seems to be safe, and now you can bring it to market. So it's a slower process. Industry here would argue that our process allows for faster innovation, obviously faster delivery of these products. In Europe, they've taken a much stricter route, saying we have to know this is safe, not that it just doesn't cause harm, but that it is truly safe for the body to handle. And I think, when we talk about ultra processed foods, it's important to remember that we really are talking about carbohydrates and sugar. And when the dietary guidelines came out in the 70s, what we did was we removed fat from the diet, and that fat was really replaced by carbs and sugar. And so when you look at the chronic disease epidemic, it becomes really clear that this is coming from these carbs, and I would argue seed oils, which you really are finding mostly in these processed foods. So I think, part of Kennedy's campaign of Eat Real Food is if you're eating real food, you are not eating this processed stuff, and you're avoiding this problem in that way. And now this is another, again, the person who put forward the citizens petition was the former head of the FDA, under Biden. So there is agreement on both sides that something needs to be done about the way that we're delivering this food to Americans. I mean, I think if you really, the whole scope of it, and this is tough to say, but I think the American public has really been treated like a bunch of lab rats, and the outcome has been chronic disease. And we need to start pulling that back in.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very serious, very practical issue that we're discussing today. You know, I'm a consumer. I go to the grocery store just like anybody else. I want to ask you, is there any way today for an ordinary consumer, you know, to find out how many of these substances, these grass-exempted substances, are in the food supply exactly?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know the total number. I think, you know, one of the things that we teach, we have a 2-day seminar that's really working with health coaches and personal trainers, so that we have actually over 100 locations in the United States that are MetFix gyms, and MetFix just stands for metabolic fix. And we talk a lot about this, how to help the average person navigate good food choices, because that's really what's going to drive health outcomes. And I think, you know, the easiest thing to take away is that if you are eating food that doesn't have a food label, you are better off. And you don't really need to count your calories or your macros. You just need to eat those whole foods. So meat and vegetables as your primary options. Dairy is fine as long as it's full fat dairy. And I think, you know, the more ingredients you see on the back, the more you should be sort of limiting those foods. And certainly when you're reading the label and you can't pronounce what it is that's inside there because it's a chemical compound that takes up the entire line of the ingredient list, like, I'd avoid that. I think that's an easy way to the average person can sort of start thinking about this. You know, the other trick is to shop in the perimeter of the grocery store. So most of the processed foods is going to be in the aisles in the middle, whereas meat, vegetables, dairy are on the perimeter. So if you just stay on the outside, and again, if you just eat whole foods, you are going to be far better off than the average American. And I think right now we have, the statistics is so alarming. It's like 12.2% of Americans are metabolically healthy. That's it. So most people could drastically improve their health by learning the things that we teach at MetFix, but that also, you know, honestly, just don't eat food with food labels. If you started there, you would see radical reversals of chronic disease.
Yeah, maybe you can give us just finally a bit more tips on that. Just not eating foods with food labels. I mean, I would imagine that might be a bit difficult. So maybe we can hear more tips from you, because they're everywhere, right? You brought up grocery stores. They're also in school cafeterias, vending machines, airports, some restaurants as well. Maybe you can give us, more tips on how to avoid those foods with food labels.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if you're stuck in a situation where you're in an airport or you're in a, you're at school and it's very limited, I mean, obviously there's going to be fruit and vegetables usually available to you, and there should be meat. And so I would say, you want to cut out the things that have the labels. If they have labels, then look for foods that only have 1 or 2 ingredients on the labels. And, I think, again, like, we could probably make some correlation between the more ingredients on a label, the more deleterious it is to your health. And so as you're making those choices, you're really trying to find things that are as close to the original source of food that it was, right? So if you're looking for potatoes, you want to find, maybe mashed potatoes that have some cream and butter, but not like 1,000 ingredients. And I think we can do that. I know when I travel, Starbucks has egg bites that don't have carbs in them and that are really just egg and then maybe some bacon and some cheese. Meat sticks are always good to keep on hand. I keep those. And if you really want to have potato chips, we do have lots of brands now, like MAHA chips that are made with beef tallow instead of the seed oil. And one of the things that we talk about in our seminar is when you introduce seed oils, they have something that, basically we have in our body, reactive oxygen species, which is a signaling molecule in the body, and it tells the cell if it's full or not. And when your reactive oxygen species is low, which is what happens when you eat seed oils, your body is hungry, and so you want to eat more. So I always try to say, do an experiment where you take some, Doritos or whatever chips you really like to eat. Try eating them. You'll go through the whole bag, no problem. And then you try eating some of these chips that are cooked in beef tallow, and you get full faster. And it's at a cellular level, but it's the kind of experiment anybody can do. And I think it's actually a great way to talk to kids about good choices and not good choices. You want to eat food that makes you feel full. And these seed oils don't do that. They make you more hungry. And so you end up eating more of the garbage, unfortunately. And those carbs and sugar raise your insulin, which causes you to store that energy as fat you can't access. And so you're tired and hungry all the time when you're in what we call the glycolytic pathway. And whereas if you're eating meat and vegetables, you can access the fat on your body for energy. You'll sleep better. We, in our MetFix locations, we're reversing type 2 diabetes, sometimes in as short as 3 to 4 months. These are people who have been told their whole lives they have to be on medication. And by just getting rid of the carbs and the seed oils, they're able to reverse their diseases. Our MetFix locations are gyms. These are just places in communities all over America that are having this dramatic effect by using lifestyle to educate people and to, treat the diseases that we're all facing at such high numbers, even children. I mean, I like to always point out that 1 in 10 American kids has something called fatty liver, which used to only be seen in raging alcoholics. And it's because of the amount of sugar that they're being fed. And so this is a very serious problem that really deserves all of our attention. And so I think this citizens petition is looking at how have these manufacturers been able to get all of these chemicals that haven't really been tested at all. I mean, if you put this in the realm of drug approval, it would be unheard of to be putting all this stuff out for the American public to consume without any data publicly available about what they're putting in and what the impact of it is. And so I think this is about more transparency. I think it's about more honesty. I mean, we need to know what your conflicts of interest are. And if the manufacturer is paying you to say that this is not harmful, I'm not sure that I would trust that as much as I would if it was a panel of experts that were put together because of their expertise and were allowed to say, no, we do think it's harmful.
Yeah, I mean, very good information today. So useful, Emily. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Are you coming to the tree? Are they strung up a man? They say we were free. Strange things that happened here, stranger would it be if we left at midnight in the hanging tree? Are you coming to the tree? And call, our forest loves you free.
Hi, I'm Jerome Goddard from the Mississippi State University Extension Service. I'm a medical entomologist. I do public health. A lot of people ask me about alpha-gal syndrome or red meat allergy. It's a thing. It really is. And what's so weird about it is it's caused by a tick bite. What it is, alpha-gal, it's some kind of a carbohydrate or sugar, some kind of chemical that's in all mammals except primates. It's not in humans. It's not in monkeys or apes. But every kind of other mammal has this little sugar. So what happens is when a tick, certain ticks, mostly the Lone Star tick, certain ticks, when they feed on a mammal out there, a deer or whatever, they get that alpha-gal in their gut from sucking up the blood. Then in the next stage, when it feeds again on a human, it sort of spits that sugar, that alpha-gal, into your blood. When it feeds, it sort of spits a little. That's what they do when they suck blood. And so if you have propensity to allergy, you can become allergic to that alpha-gal, that sugar, that carbohydrate. Well, guess what? Then when you eat a steak, you have an allergic reaction. Sometimes really bad allergic reactions, usually hours later, really bad. And so it's called alpha-gal syndrome or red meat allergy. Go to an allergist if you think you got it. They can test your blood. They can see if you have it. Do what the allergists say. You may or may not be able to eat meat again. You can eat other meat beside red meat while you have it. But you may eventually be able to eat red meat again. You just have to go by what the allergist says because they can test your blood and stuff. So in the meantime, you can eat chicken, fish, and other non-red meat. That's the story of alpha-gal.
Why are Americans developing an allergy to meat? It isn't an ordinary allergy, which most commonly comes from an immune system reaction gone haywire. Allergies to meat are particularly common. The most common allergies include dairy, peanuts, tree nuts, and shellfish. It's also not an intolerance, which typically affects the digestive system and is most common with gluten. This new surge of meat allergies are caused by something called alpha-gal syndrome, and the culprit is unexpected and small. It's caused by a tick bite from a specific species, including the Lone Star tick and the Australian paralysis tick. It happens when a specific carbohydrate is passed from the tick to the human, causing an overreaction of antibodies. It typically causes an allergy to all red meat, but severe cases can include dairy allergies as well. Symptoms include a rash, hives, nausea, and even severe symptoms like dizziness, low blood pressure, and difficulty breathing. There is one silver lining for meat lovers who develop alpha-gal syndrome. It only affects mammal meat, so fried chicken is still on the menu.
Texas just became the 7th state in America to officially ban lab-grown meat. Why does Bill Gates still exist? Now, only Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Montana, Nebraska, and Indiana have banned lab-grown meat. Like, you trying to eat this shit? I know I'm not! Now, you can call me a conspiracy theorist all you want, but I don't trust this shit any more than I trusted the COVID vaccine, which was not at all. But what do y'all think? Let me know down in the comments.
Serious question. Would you know if you're eating fake meat? Would you know if you're eating lab-grown meat?
Followers just sent me this video of some chicken they've bought from Asda. Look closely at the texture of this chicken. That's identical to lab-grown meat. I'm not saying it is, but it's identical. So it's either that, or I'm being told it can be caused by birds bred to grow at extreme speeds, which can cause muscle fibres not to develop properly and start to separate. You can make your mind up on what it is, but you just need to stop buying this shite from supermarkets and find your nearest trusted organic farmer to get your meat from.
Sound advice. I recently had some chicken. It was a bit of southern fried chicken. I was going to cut it up and have it in like a wrap. And I cut it, and the chicken was pretty stringy. You could literally like kind of go like that with it, and it made me think, and as that video suggests, it could be rapidly grown chicken, or, you know, the question here is, would you know if you're even eating fake lab-grown meat? Is it called meat? Are we even calling it meat? Let's take a look at how this stuff is actually processed.
This steak was made entirely by a 3D printer. It looks like real steak, complete with fibers, and the flavor and texture are surprisingly close. It's created by growing real cow cells in a lab, then layering muscle and fat cells through a 3D printing process. If this technology becomes widespread, we could enjoy steak in the future without slaughtering a single cow.
See, I don't think that we would know. In many circumstances, I think if you bought like a chicken, for example, of course, I don't know if they're sort of doing Franken chickens and fake looking actual chickens, but what I'm talking about here is we wouldn't know in products like chicken nuggets and chicken pieces, and not just chicken, obviously many different types of meat. You know, if you bought soup and bits like that, the chicken little pieces in that, would we even know? But here's what I think is the bigger question. Would they even tell us? Are they legally even bound to tell us? Because the reason I ask that, because I think the answer to that is no. And the reason for that is the likes of Billy G and people like that have been trying to flog this stuff for years now, and it hasn't worked. But apparently they always know what's best for us. Yeah, they always know what's best for us and the environment. Therefore, typically a lot of things have to be forced upon us, even if we want it or not, because we're like little children. We need to be told what we like and what we don't want and what we want. And I think this will be one example of that. We'll be consuming this stuff without even knowing it, and whether they need to tell us or not. Of course, it's going to differ with different countries and things like that in regards to regulations. But I think generally, are they telling us? That's the question for me. What do you think, Tata?
So it looks like our friend Bill Gates is not done yet. He's just created another new company called Savor. It's going to create butter out of thin air. He's developed a process where he combines CO2 from the atmosphere with hydrocarbons in a process that's very similar to petroleum distillation, and then adds flavor and coloring. As a matter of fact, the Germans did in World War II because they were running out of butter. They created what we later called margarine. Turned out to be one of the worst food disasters in all of history, and we now know that butter is healthier than margarine. So what's this new thing made out of thin air? It's hydrocarbons that are oxygenated into fatty acids, strung together, put on glycerin backbone. It tastes like butter because of artificial flavoring. What's the chances of this turning out to be health enhancing? Look at the history of when we've done this. We've tried for 100 years and we can't even make a substitute for sugar that's not worse than sugar. The truth is that when we develop something synthetically, we don't know that it's safe, and we don't know the health consequence until after it's too late and it's already been pushed on an unsuspecting public. My advice, don't buy Bill Gates butter made out of thin air.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The wimp's on the loose, he's bought all the land. He's out for revenge, to hurt every man. He'll print all the food and drug every kid. Pretend like he's good, then hide what he did. Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe till we have gates behind the bars. The geek's in control, he's changed his disguise. His chemical world will be your demise. He's sick and he's cruel and acts like he's God. Speaks on the stage while zombies applaud. Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe till we have gates behind the bars. He's coming for you, his plans at the door. He's climbed through the windows, he's part of the war. He deals in the dark and buys his own truth. He'll package it up and he'll sell it to you. All the sheep will believe, afraid they will die, trapped by the one who has wrapped them in lies. The creep's not alone, he plots with his friends. The forum they have is a circle of sin. There's snakes all around who traffic and kill. They'll dope up the world with needles and pills. Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. Hey, hey. Nobody's safe till we have gates behind the bars. Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. Hey, hey. Nobody's safe till we have gates behind the bars.
Well, this won't be the last pandemic that we face. So we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is, will get attention this time.
So I really think we're entering the era of the end of fast food, because with the prices nowadays, who's going to continue to justify being able to eat food that you already know is not good for you and also pay a lot for it?
We need to talk about how much a 6-inch Subway sandwich costs, because apparently I've been living under a rock. This weekend, we went to the mall in Illinois to go to the Nike clearance store because it's the cheapest place to get shoes for our kids. Please, don't take that from me. I need it. We're going to make a special thing. We're going to have lunch at the food court. I have 3 very young kids. I pay for 3 kids in daycare. We don't go out to eat. All right, let me just get a turkey sub. My fave, I'll go to Subway. Subway ruined themselves with the $5 footlong because now that's what everyone expects. But I'm like, okay, it used to be $5 for 12 inches. So surely it's going to be $5 for 6 inches, right? Inflation can't be that bad. That's 6-inch sub. I just got a sub. No drink, no chips, nothing. A turkey sub. Turkey, cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, pickles, onions, mayo. $10. $10. 10. I'm choking up just thinking about it now. See ya never, Subway. See ya never. I'm never coming back. One, because it's not even that good. Two, $10? You're out of your mind.
Things are becoming so irrationally expensive that even I'm starting to question the prices. And I say that as someone who lives under the guise of, well, I got to get it anyway, right? So like if it's gas or food, I really don't question it because it's a necessity for me to live. What am I going to say? I'm not going to eat food. And I just got food from Popeyes, and although that's not necessarily a necessity, 3 chicken tenders, a side, and a drink is $18. 18?
Can someone explain to me what the fuck happened to Five Guys? I went there the other day for 2 people. Hamburger, fries, drink. It was like $60. I'm not paying $30 per person unless you're bringing that food to my table and refilling that drink. And honestly, at that price, I should be able to get a single of whiskey in there, and y'all don't even have a liquor license. Food prices are out of control, but Five Guys they're on extra cocaine.
You know something I think should be illegal? I just went to Taco Bell. I got a soft taco. And when they gave me my total, they said, would you like to round up by 50 cents for the Taco Bell Scholarship Fund? No, I don't. I mean, like, in my heart, sure, but that doesn't make any sense. Because Taco Bell last year reported $1 billion in profits. Like, if I had $1 billion and I spent $100,000 a year, it would take me 10,000 years to spend $1 billion. 10,000 years. Why do you need my 50 cents that you're then going to say was a charitable contribution and use it as a tax write-off? And all of your workers make minimum wage. Something's not right.
What happened to Panera Bread? $71.62 for 3 sandwiches, 2 of them that were grilled cheese and 2 soups. $71.62. Are you kidding me? Like, I know, guys, the Chipotle video, the McDonald's video, all these other videos of these places going crazy, but like Panera Bread was something where you could go and get like a half a sandwich, a little cup of soup, and a drink for like under 20 bucks. Is this how completely out of touch these companies have gotten when it comes to pricing this stuff?
Have these fast food restaurants lost their damn minds? We're out running errands, door dashing, doing some things today. We pull into Burger King and I get a Junior Whopper. My husband gets a Whopper. Why is just a Whopper, not the meal, just a Whopper, $9? I can go to a damn restaurant, get a better quality hamburger with French fries for probably $9.99. Why the hell is anybody eating at fast food restaurants right now? I mean, we don't eat out at fast food restaurants very often, so I had no idea that a Whopper was $9 by itself. By itself! Never again. We will not be coming back to Burger King. $9 for a flipping Whopper. That's just insane.
Chipotle is saying, if you're broke, then Chipotle is not the place for you. I mean, that's what he's saying in so many words. Basically, he's saying that their core customer base, 60% of their core customer base are people who make over $100,000 a year. Yeah. So basically, they're saying that the majority of their customers, 60%, make over $100,000 a year. Therefore, they won't mind the 1% to 2% price increase because they can basically afford it. And those are the people they are targeting for as their core audience regarding their new price increase. So basically, if you're broke, Chipotle is not the spot for you. Do not go to Chipotle. Their core customers are at $100,000 a year. They're confident that they can lean into that group a more meaningful way.
This is the craziest shit ever. So I'm here at Chipotle and I just want to show you guys what I ordered. This is literally all that I ordered. Just this. And this shit cost me $20. 19, but that's basically 20. $19 for one person. That's literally an hour of work for a lot of people in this world. Crazy. And I'm only here because I'm starving, but it's some bullshit.
I just paid $19 for this sad little sack of Taco Bell. Who remembers the glory days when you could roll through with your car full of all of your friends, get the entire menu practically for like $7?
I got Starbucks last week for the first time in a while and was absolutely floored by how much money it was, to the point where I think I finally reached my threshold of Starbucks actually being worth the money anymore. And over the past 5 years or so, there have been quite a few things that have reached that threshold for me and my husband, where we're trying to save money to do things that actually matter to us. So we've been really cutting back on the things that don't matter. And I've created certain rules for myself when it comes to spending money on things I don't necessarily need. So for one thing now, I am literally just getting McDonald's iced coffee for $1, or I'm going to support a local business if I want coffee. I'm not spending $6 on a medium iced coffee anymore at Starbucks. A long time ago, Panera reached this threshold for me. It is just so expensive to eat there, and I feel like they give you less and less food every single time. I cannot remember the last time I went into a Panera. They are highway robbery. A couple summers ago, my husband and I went to a restaurant, like a pretty standard restaurant, I'll say mediocre. And it was literally $60 for us to get lunch, no alcohol. So we drew a line in the sand that we were only doing fast casual, Jersey Mike's or Five Guys, or we were going to a nice restaurant. We're not doing any of the in-between restaurants anymore because it's just not worth it to us at the end of the day. And alcohol, this is a huge one for us. We're both not big drinkers in general. And I will say, when I lived in South Carolina for college, it was so much easier for me to justify getting a drink because it was $4.25 for a mixed vodka drink. Here, it's $15 for a cocktail on the cocktail menu. It's just not worth it to us at all. I think my husband got a canned cider one of the last times we went out. It was legitimately $11. I was come on, I can't deal with this anymore.
Since when did fast food cost just as much as a sit-down restaurant? We were at Chick-fil-A and it cost $60 for 4 of us to eat. $60. That is a sit-down restaurant with a drink for the both of us and a kid's meal.
2 kids meal.
2 kids meals. And that we're spending that on fast food. That's crazy to me.
Fast food has turned into sit-down restaurant prices.
I guess so.
When you go to get fast food now, you might as well go to a regular sit-down restaurant because it's almost equal in price. It really is crazy. In fact, I really think that this year, 2026, we're going to see a lot of fast food establishments close down. In fact, there are already talks of quite a bit that are closing down. But I think the trend is going to continue, especially as the year goes on, because they're not lowering their prices. I know they're coming out with more deals, in terms of maybe children eat free, or, they're trying to say, oh, you get more on a value menu. They're really trying to get customers, their attention. And I've seen other healthier options they're trying now protein bowls and stuff like that. But I think because the line has been crossed at with the price point, I think that's just it, because that was the reason why people would go and get fast food. Otherwise, what's the point? So it is what it is. I think they're going to continue to see more and more closures. People just can't afford it anymore. The buy now, pay later programs that they've been offering even for fast food, where are we? What world do we live in that we've come to that? Fast food already is not good for us. So you know what? Maybe this is for the better. But let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think? Do you think that fast food is going to continue to thrive, or do you see that these businesses are going to be closing down because right now the demand's not there? The consumers are disappearing. People don't have the money for that. So what are your thoughts? Let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, everyone.
Chris K here with, you've heard about it, here it is, the Big Arch. This is something that we have tested already in Portugal, Germany, Canada. I love this product. It is so good. I'm going to do a tasting right now, but I'm going to eat this for my lunch, just so you know. So here we go. First, holy cow. God, that is a big burger. We've got a very unique kind of sesame poppy sort of bun on it. We've got 2 quarter-pound patties, a delicious Big Arch sauce, and of course some lettuce. So, oh, there's so much going on with this. First of all, let's try to get this thing. I don't even know how to attack it. Got so much to it. Oh, there's also some crispy onions on here as well. I see those kind of coming out. All right, the moment of truth. That is so good. That's a big bite for a big arch. It's distinctively McDonald's. Only McDonald's could do this type of burger, but it also is unlike anything else on our menu. It's a delicious product. You know, you've got sort of the cheeses and the gooiness, but those crispy onions as well gives a nice texture. And of course, we've got the pickles. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of my lunch, but Big Arch, try it when you can get it.
What's in a McDonald's Big Mac? I'm actually going to show you what's in a Big Mac, what's in their French fries, what's in the chicken nuggets, what's in a McRib, which is now back, and the ingredient. You guys aren't going to believe this. Come on. How's it going? It's going good. How about you? Can I get a Big Mac, 6-piece chicken nuggets, small? Yeah, the ranch and the sweet and sour, a McRib, and a small fries.
Do you like any ketchup on the side with that?
Yeah. You guys make the burgers. Do you cook the burgers in any oil, or is it just straight on the grill?
I'm not really sure because I don't really cook at all.
Can we ask him?
No oil.
Just the patties go straight on the grill.
You just put the patty straight on the grill and then it cooks like that.
Okay.
But there's obviously oil accumulated just from the meat.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yep. There you go. That's a little tidbit for you guys. If you're in a pinch, the quarter-pound beef patties at McDonald's are 100% beef. Maybe not the best beef in the world, but they don't use seed oils on the grill here. Let's go sit down and we'll see what comes out with the rest of this food. This is quite a spread of diabetes, obesity, chronic disease, and unhappiness, but I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna start with the chicken nuggets here. Trust me, I get it. I used to eat chicken nuggets as a kid. So these are chicken meat with bleached wheat flour added. The problem with bleached wheat flour is some of the chemicals they use to bleach the wheat flour can be harmful for humans, like chlorine dioxide. There's obviously a breading, which is a wheat-based breading, and that is cooked in 4 different types of seed oils: corn, canola, soybean, and hydrogenated soybean oil to make these chicken nuggets. Hydrogenated soybean oil, that's like a trans fat. You know that's going to be a problematic thing because of how it's processed, extra heated. But the fact that there are 4 seed oils in chicken nuggets means that you're going to be getting tons of this fat, linoleic acid, which I'm not a fan of. Why do I not like linoleic acid? High level, not to get too technical, linoleic acid accumulates in your body. It accumulates in all the cell membranes, your mitochondrial membranes. It messes up the way you make energy in your mitochondria by causing proton leak across the inner mitochondrial membrane. The seed oils also can break down into harmful compounds called the HODs and the heats. These are called oxalams or oxylipins, etc. All right, I got a little technical. That was maybe a little more technical than high level. Basically, seed oils are something that humans never would have been exposed to before. 100 years ago. They were used as machine lubricants, and now they're a huge part of our food supply. They're in basically everything on this table. And in contrast, animal fats like tallow and butter were all we ate for thousands and thousands of years of humans. Is it any wonder that before the early 1900s, things like cancer and autoimmune disease were much more rare? Cardiovascular disease, heart attacks were almost unheard of. And since then, these have increased massively. Obviously, there are many things that have caused these health conditions to skyrocket in the last 100 to 115 years, but I think seed oils are a major contributor to this. Not a huge fan of chicken nuggets, but I think that a lot of kids out there have eaten a lot of these oils, and that is contributing to childhood obesity, childhood diabetes, behavioral problems. There's nothing good about chicken nuggets at McDonald's. We've also got the dipping sauces for the chicken nuggets. You've got the sweet and sour sauce, first ingredient, high fructose corn syrup, ranch dressing. First ingredient is not any sort of dairy. It's, say it with me, soybean oil. So problematic seed oils and high fructose corn syrup, the highly processed, essentially weaponized form of sugar in sweet and sour sauce with your chicken McNugget dipping sauces. Major problems. Next up, McDonald's French fries. Guess how many ingredients are in McDonald's French fries? They should be potatoes, tallow, and salt. McDonald's used to cook in tallow, but then an eccentric millionaire in the 1990s convinced them that tallow was somehow contributing to heart disease.
Sokolov shouts, "That's not true. Your fries are cooked in animal fat." The McDonald's guy gets flustered, tries to say something. Sokolov doesn't let him finish.
Beef tallow. It's vegetable and they beef shortening. They are 90 to 95% beef tallow. It's vegetable and beef comes from your company.
When in fact, the seed oils that they replace the tallow with are the actual contributors to heart disease. Regardless, it is a tragedy that McDonald's no longer cooks their fries in tallow. These fries have 19 ingredients 19 ingredients in these fries. They are cooked in 4 different types of seed oils: corn, soybean, partially hydrogenated soybean oil, which is going to have a lot of trans fats, and canola oil. What else is in here? Dimethyl polysiloxane. It's a huge word. It's an anti-foaming agent used in the oils and the fryers. It's a silicone derivative that is also found in silly putty. So there are silly putty ingredients in your French fries, but we're not done yet. They also contain THBQ, a chemical preservative, which is associated with cancers in lab animals and is a reason that many foods cannot be sold at healthy grocery stores like Whole Foods. In fact, Whole Foods will not sell Reese's peanut butter cups or Reese's Pieces because they contain THBQ, but they're fine in the McDonald's French fries. And the salt at McDonald's, well, I'm going to tell you the secret ingredient in the salt at McDonald's at the end, guys, but you won't believe it. The salt at McDonald's actually has 3 ingredients. Stay tuned. The French fries at McDonald's are their biggest seller year over year. These are almost certainly the worst thing you could possibly get here, causing you to be more hungry, filling you with seed oils, filling you with preservatives, filling you with silly putty ingredients. The French fries at McDonald's are an absolute nightmare for your metabolism, but they're the most popular thing here. 19 ingredients in French fries, crazy. As a plug, McDonald's, please start cooking your French fries in tallow. I will do a video about that. If you just have one store anywhere in the United States that cooks your French fries in tallow, I will fly there and do a video about it at McDonald's. Heads up to you. What's next? Ketchup. You're gonna put ketchup on your fries, right? Well, what do you think is in ketchup? It should just be tomatoes and salt. But the ketchup at McDonald's contains high fructose corn syrup, and natural flavors, along with tomatoes, salt, and distilled vinegar. So basically at McDonald's so far, you've got seed oils and high fructose corn syrup every which way you turn. Is it any wonder that eating here will cause you to become supersized also? No. I hope you guys are enjoying this video. I've got a deal for you. If you hit that like and subscribe button right now, it helps me make these videos. I want to keep making these videos with free information that you can share with your friends and your family to help you lead better, healthier lives. So here's the deal. If you hit that like and subscribe button right now, I will do my best. I promise that I will keep making these videos that are interesting, that are funny, that are educational, that are free for you. Thank you, my friends. Now back to the video. All right, guys, next up, the Big Mac. This is really the thing that made McDonald's famous as far as I can tell. And I've seen experiments where people have Big Macs and they put them on their shelves for 5 or 6 years and they look essentially exactly the same. That's pretty freaking scary, because if I take a burger patty that I make at home and I cook it, in 5 or 6 days, that thing is gonna be moldy or have actual real decay because it's real food. You know that when something lasts for 5 or 6 years, there's a problem. So the bun, it's just bread, right? Nope. In the bun, there are 2 different seed oils, canola and soybean oil, and sugar. And that's just in the bun. You have a beef patty, which is probably the best part of your McDonald's Big Mac. This is 100% beef. That's great. The only part of this burger that has any redeeming value is the fact this is 100% beef. Obviously, it's not the best beef on the planet. It's not cooked in seed oils, so that's okay. Not great. If you're in a pinch, get a bunch of these, you'll be fine. You ever see how thin these are? It's like so thin. Next, you got some pickles. Pickles are just pickles, right? Nope. Pickles at McDonald's have 10 ingredients. 10 ingredients in pickles. Some of the ingredients are aluminum salts, polysorbate 80, and potassium sorbate. None of those are good for humans. And excess amounts of aluminum in our diets have been associated with increased rates of dementia like Alzheimer's. It's horrible. And these pickles are in a mix of some kind of secret sauce. Secret sauce is full of all the bad things. It's like the worst things in the McDonald's universe. Combined, you got high fructose corn syrup, you got soybean oil, which is a seed oil, you've got caramel color, and you've got propylene glycol. Like I said, the secret sauce is like the horrible love child of all the other bad things at McDonald's. Now, we're gonna go through this bun right here. You've got another beef patty, and stuck to that beef patty, you've got a piece of American, quote, cheese. So, American cheese is pretty crazy, guys. Not even real cheese, cannot even be called real cheese. It's a cheese product. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that American cheese is full of microplastics. You can look at that American cheese under a microscope, and there are tons of little microplastics in that American cheese. It's a cheese product. So you've got buns that are full of seed oils and sugar. You've got pickles with 10 ingredients. You've got seed oil, high fructose corn syrup, caramel color, polysorbate lined secret sauce. I mean, you've got a Big Mac that'll stay on the shelf of your house as a museum piece for the next 6 years, but if you put it in your body, it's definitely going to contribute to weight gain, metabolic dysfunction, and nothing good comes from this, guys. Salt at McDonald's, iodized salt. Usually salt is just sodium chloride, but the salt at McDonald's contains sodium chloride, sodium silicoaluminate, that is a derivative of aluminum. So you've got more aluminum in here. Remember guys, that excess aluminum is associated with all sorts of neurologic issues in humans. And you've got dextrose, which is essentially sugar. So there's sugar in the salt at McDonald's and aluminum. That's crazy. Let's end it off, guys, with the McRib. When I was growing up, I ate too much McDonald's. Like I said, I was kind of a fat kid. The McRib is back. It's a big deal. So the McRib is pork, and as you can imagine, the bun of the McRib, no surprise, soybean oil and sugar in the bun. Interestingly, you've got some real onions here. You've got the famous McDonald's pickles with 10 ingredients that we just talked about. And then in the actual McRib, I just got some McRib sauce on my finger, trying to wipe it off. In the McRib and the sauce, you've got pork, you've got dextrose, which is sugar, you've got caramel color, you've got soybean oil, and you've got high fructose corn syrup. You've also got sodium benzoate, which is a preservative. Nothing to get excited about in my opinion. A lot of barbecue sauce on there, full of all kinds of garbage, but it's badness. So yeah, guys, wow. We got chicken nuggets, French fries, sweet and sour ranch, ketchup, Big Mac, McRib. This is a metabolic nightmare right here. Let me tell you guys how to do this better. If you want to do burgers, cook them on the grill. Cook grass-fed, grass-finished, cook them in tallow. You're gonna be great. I'm not a fan of bread in general because of the gluten, but definitely don't eat bread that's full of seed oils and sugar. If you want to do chicken nuggets, you can get a high-quality chicken and you could cook it in some butter for your kids. That's probably the best you can do. Definitely don't use a salt that's gonna have sugar and sodium silicoaluminate in it. French fries, I'm not a huge fan of potatoes, but if you like potatoes, you can make French fries cooked in tallow with a good salt. That's gonna be much healthier than this. McRib, look, there's tons of ways to eat good pork. Get a pastured pork, cook it on the grill, use a barbecue sauce that's not full of seed oils and high fructose corn syrup, and you'll be way better. There are lots of ketchups out there that don't have high fructose corn syrup and natural flavors in them. And there are definitely ways to make sauces like these that are better than this ranch and sweet and sour because these have horrible things in them, high fructose corn syrup and seed oil. So you can eat foods like this. You can eat amazingly healthy, nutritive foods that taste great, but with a little bit of attention to the way you make them, you can avoid all the toxins that are in this meal. Over 60% of the calories that we eat as Americans are ultra-processed food, like this. And I hope that this video helps you understand why Americans are so sick, fat, and unhealthy. If you eat ultra-processed food, you are getting all sorts of these toxins that are poisons for your metabolism. They're causing you to be hungry. They are causing you to gain weight. They are causing you to eventually develop things like diabetes, metabolic dysfunction, and that just leads to misery. So this is a swift path to obesity, to low libido, to diabetes, to arthritis, to all sorts of issues. I believe that all of us have a birthright to life that is full of energy, libido, strength, and resilience. This is not how you get there, but like I said, there's many ways to improve on all this that'll definitely improve your health. So let's go find somebody to give this stuff away to or put it in the trash. Oof, that was brutal, guys. There's some garbage in those foods. So McDonald's, is it any wonder that eating here contributes to all sorts of problems in humans? Is it any wonder that supersize me is a real thing? Not when you think about the fact that there's high fructose corn syrup, preservatives, polysorbate 80, potassium sorbate, seed oils in all the foods here, guys. So it's really clear. If you want to be healthier, if you want to lose weight, it doesn't have to be complicated. Get rid of ultra-processed foods like this in your diet. Just eat real foods, eat real meat, eat real fruit, eat some vegetables, knock yourself out, I don't care. But eat real food. Stop eating this, and you will be so much healthier. And if you guys think that cost is prohibitive or cost is an issue, this is just as expensive as it would be to go to Walmart or Target or any regular grocery store and get a very simple animal-based diet of meat and fruit, honey and avocados. I've done lots of videos. I'll link to them down below. I'll put a link in this video to how to eat animal-based for less than $15 a day. You can't tell me that McDonald's is cheaper than that, guys. There's lots of ways to eat healthier that are very affordable. You don't need to eat this garbage and you'll be much healthier. That's all there is to it.
They made everything worse to protect margins. Food as it should be? Sure it is. Panera hid behind the word clean. Our next chain paid the largest criminals referenced over 1,000 inspection reports, active lawsuits, and CDC outbreak records to find the fast food chains that keep failing and keep feeding you anyway. Everything here comes from public records, published studies, and court filings. One chain on this list paid a $25 million criminal fine. the largest in food safety history, and never closed a single location. Another was scientifically ranked the unhealthiest in America, and it's not the one you think. There's a chain on this list where 2 people died from a lemonade. The worst part? At least one of these is probably your go-to, and almost nothing they're doing breaks a single federal law because the law was written to protect them, not you. You're looking at a Big Mac and you think you know what's in there. 2 patties, lettuce, special sauce. Nothing complicated, right? Not even close. 2026 is shaping up to be the worst year for fast food in a decade. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why and exactly what to watch out for the next time you pull into a drive-thru. 15 McDonald's. Picture this. You're in the drive-thru, 3 kids in the back, and you order the grilled chicken because you're trying to do the right thing. Maybe skip the fries. Feel a little responsible. Here's what nobody told you. A 2022 Consumer Report study found McDonald's grilled chicken had the highest sodium levels of any tested fast food chain. The healthy option is the sneakiest trap on the menu. You thought you were outsmarting them. They were outsmarting you. McDonald's adds something called natural beef flavor to those patties. Sounds harmless, except per their own allergen information, it contains wheat and milk derivatives. If your kid has a dairy allergy or a gluten sensitivity, that simple burger could trigger a reaction, and there's nothing on the menu board warning you. October 2024, contaminated slivered onions on Quarter Pounders triggered an E. coli outbreak across 14 states. 104 people sick, and that's more people than fit in most restaurants. 34 hospitalized. A man in Colorado died. The CDC traced it to a Taylor Farms facility in Colorado Springs. Remember that name? Taylor Farms. It's coming back. McDonald's Corporation pulled in over $25 billion in revenue last year. They spent $100 million on marketing to make you forget that outbreak happened. Let that marinate. And those fries everybody loves, coated in dextrose. That's sugar, for the golden color. They also contain beef flavoring. If you've been ordering them thinking they're vegetarian, they're not. Never have been. The ice cream machines. Everyone jokes about them being broken. The real reason? The cleaning cycle takes 4 hours and fails constantly. When it fails, residue just sits. And the McAfee machines? Former workers say those milk lines can go weeks without a deep clean. Weeks? Milk? Warm tubes? Think about that next time you order a McFlurry for the grandkids. A big breakfast with hot cakes. 1,340 calories and 2,070 milligrams of sodium. Your entire day's salt allowance. Before your first coffee. Billions served. Don't ask how many got sent home sick. But McDonald's only chain playing games with what grilled means. Burger King built an entire brand on flame grilled flavor. What's actually happening behind that counter is a whole different story. 14 Burger King. Have it your way. Flame grilled. The anti-McDonald's. Here's how that flame grilling actually works. Patties slide over gas-powered flames for maybe 6 seconds, just long enough to sear on some grill marks. Then they sit in a warming drawer. When you order, they get zapped back to life in a microwave. Flame grilled sounds a lot better than briefly kissed by fire, then nuked, doesn't it? And that Whopper you're picturing? In 2023, a class action alleged it's 35% smaller than what you see in their ads. Independent measurements confirmed it. Imagine ordering a large coffee and getting a medium every single time. But here's what's hiding inside. That zesty sauce everyone loves contains titanium dioxide, a whitening agent that's been flat out banned from food in Europe. Americans are just dipping their nuggets in it like nothing's wrong. Restaurant Brands International, Burger King's parent company, pulled in roughly $7 billion in revenue in 2024. They have the resources to grill a real burger. They chose the microwave. Former workers described the broiler conveyor belts caked with carbonized grease that hasn't been properly scrubbed in months. I had to read that inspection report twice. The fully loaded croissant, 710 calories, 49 grams of fat, and 2,240 milligrams of sodium. Your entire recommended daily sodium in a single breakfast sandwich before noon. If you're on a blood pressure medication, that one sandwich just undid everything your doctor prescribed. Have it your way. As long as your way is a microwaved patty that's 35% smaller than the picture, enjoy. Think Burger King stretches the truth? Wait until you hear what happened at the chain that swears it's fresh, never frozen, and what it cost them $4.7 million to settle. 13 Wendy's. Fresh, never frozen. Wendy's built everything on that line, and their beef patties genuinely never see a freezer. But their chicken, frozen. Fish, frozen solid. Most proteins that aren't beef arrive rock hard and sit in warmers before they hit your tray. That famous Frosty? Over 15 ingredients. One of them is cellulose gum. Sounds fancy until you realize it's processed wood pulp. They use it as a thickener. You're eating dessert with tree fiber mixed in. A large chocolate Frosty packs 82 grams of sugar. That's like ripping open 20 sugar packets and dumping them straight down your throat. And the chili, this genuinely surprised me. It starts with hamburger patties that sat on the grill too long. Overcooked burgers that couldn't be sold get tossed into a pot, rehydrated, and become tomorrow's special. Waste not, want not, I suppose. In 2022, an E. coli outbreak linked to romaine lettuce sickened 109 people across 6 states. More people than fit in a movie theater, including cases of hemolytic uremic syndrome, a kidney failure condition that can put you on dialysis. By 2025, Wendy's had paid out $4.7 million across 39 lawsuits. A World Atlas report ranked Wendy's the #1 unhealthiest fast food chain in America. The meal? 2,160 calories, 54 grams of saturated fat, 3,400 milligrams of sodium. Every daily limit. Except the lawsuits. Those sat on ice for 2 years. Now, remember that Taylor Farms supplier from the McDonald's E. coli outbreak? They're about to show up again. Same contaminated onions. Different drive-through window. 12 Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. Cheap. Fun. $2 burrito into a cultural institution. So what's in the beef? A 2011 class action claimed only 35% was actual beef. Taco Bell beat the lawsuit, claimed 88%, but quietly adjusted their marketing. The other 12%, oats, yeast extract, modified cornstarch. They're stretching meat the way your grandmother stretched leftovers, except she didn't charge you for it and call it premium. In 2024, Taco Bell got tangled up in the same Taylor Farms onion recall that hit McDonald's. Same supplier, same contaminated onions, same failure, different logo on the building. That's 2 chains on this list so far sharing the same stores. Keep counting. Taco Bell is owned by Yum Brands. Annual revenue over $7 billion. They also own KFC, which we'll get to. When the same parent company shows twice on a food safety list, that's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. Those cereal bags sitting in warming units for hours. Former employees have a name for it. Liquid gold that nobody wants to look at too closely. Fair enough. A beefy 5-layer burrito plus a Mountain Dew Baja Blast. 970 calories and 1,007 grams of sodium. That's 77% of your day's sodium in what most people call a casual Tuesday night snack. For someone managing type 2 diabetes, that blood sugar spike is no joke. 88% beef. That word beef is earning its paycheck on Taco Bell's menu board. But if Taco Bell plays fast and loose with definitions, wait until you hear about the chain whose tuna might not contain any actual tuna. 11 Subway. Eat fresh. The healthy option? The diet chain. The one your doctor said was probably fine. Let's start with the bread. Ireland's Supreme Court actually examined Subway's bread and ruled it doesn't qualify as bread. The sugar content is diet for the legal definition. Your healthy sub is basically wrapped in cake and the tuna. In 2021, a class action claimed Subway's tuna contained no tuna. The New York Times sent samples to a lab. The result? No amplifiable tuna DNA. None. Subway's defense? Cooking at high temperatures destroys the DNA. Inside Edition hired a different lab. Their tests did find tuna present. So one lab says yes, another says no. When scientists about whether your fish sandwich contains fish, that's not a ringing endorsement. Subway sued the original plaintiff for $600,000 in legal fees. They even launched a dedicated website, subwaytunafacts.com. When you need an entire website to prove your tuna is tuna, the tuna has already lost. That oven-roasted chicken, former employees say it's actually boiled in bags, then sliced up and displayed like it just came out of an oven. And the vegetables behind the glass? They arrive pre-sliced in plastic bags and can sit in those bins for days. And remember when they removed azotic carbonamide from their bread in 2014? That's the same chemical used to make yoga mats. Took public outrage to force the change. A foot-long Italian MT over 3 double the recommended daily limit. In the sandwich people order because they think they're eating fresh. Eat fresh. The chain where the bread isn't bread, the tuna might not be tuna, and the chicken was boiled in a bag. Drop in the comments which chain on this list you already stopped eating at, and how long ago. If this is the kind of content you want more of, investigations that actually name names and show receipts, hit subscribe. We don't money from any of these chains. The rapid fire round. Now, this is where it stops being funny. The next 5 chains have been pulling the same trick so long they barely bother hiding it. 10 KFC. You know who hated KFC's food? Colonel Sanders. The founder ain't fit for my dogs. KFC is also owned by Yum Brands. Same parent as Taco Bell, same corporate tree, same cost-cutting philosophy, different fryer. Speaking of fryers, that oil might not get fully changed for a week. They just top it off with fresh oil daily. So that piece you're eating has been swimming in the same bath as hundreds of chickens before it. Customer spending dropped 4% in 2024, while every competitor in chicken went up. Raising Cane's, Stop, Lay, Popeyes, all up. KFC down. And the gravy? Workers scrape the crusty buildup from the bottom of fryer baskets, charred residue, black and flip powder. That's what's on your mashed potatoes, which also arrive as dehydrated flakes in a bag. Your grandmother made mashed potatoes from potatoes. KFC makes them from a bag and a prayer. Even the Colonel didn't want to eat there. That should tell you everything. KFC can't keep customers. Our next chain can't keep its ice clean. 9 Sonic. You're sitting in the car, the kids are arguing over milkshake flavors, and you figure, it's just a shake. How bad would it be? Peanut Butter Cup Master Shake. 1,720 calories. Roughly 48 teaspoons of sugar. That's almost 5 full cans of Coke, and found bacterial contamination at levels higher than toilet water samples. The ice in your drink tested dirtier than what you flush. Sonic is owned by Inspire Brands. Remember that name. Same parent company as Dunkin', which is coming up. Same cost-cutting playbook, different menu. 48 teaspoons of sugar in a single drink. Somewhere a dentist just closed their practice and moved to a cabin in wood, poisoned the drink. Our next chain poisoned the main event. 8 Popeyes. That signature chicken sandwich everyone raved about? A 2025 Plush Care study ranked it the unhealthiest chicken sandwich in America. Their nugget corporate is celebrating. In Q1 2025, same-store sales dropped 4%, steepest decline among all restaurant brands international chains. Same parent company as Burger King, same pattern, third time that company has shown up on this list. Former employees report chicken sitting in warming cabinets up to 90 minutes past the supposed discard time. The meat dries out, but it still goes in the bag. Throwing it away costs money. Serving old chicken? Free. And those beloved biscuits? Each one packs 14 grams of fat. Lard. You're eating butter and biscuit sandwich that went viral? 700 calories, 14 grams of saturated fat, and 63% of your daily sodium. 2/3 of your salt for the day, gone before you finish chewing. That's the one your teenager calls just a quick lunch. At least Popeye still fries its chicken on site. Our next chain stopped making its signature product fresh entirely. 7 Dunkin'. Dunkin' stopped making donuts fresh in-store. The one thing customer reviews describe them as awful, with sizes reduced dramatically. Bagels arrive uncut, rubbery, cream cheese, the barest smear. They run out of product before lunch. Same squeeze, different large frozen coffees can clear 1,100 calories once the sugar's in. More than a Big Mac and medium fries combined, in liquid form. Gone in 15 minutes. If you're pregnant, that caffeine and sugar load is exactly what your OB warned you about. Former employees say the flavor swirl pumps develop mold inside if nobody disassembles and cleans them weekly. Guess how often that happens at a busy Dunkin'? America runs on Dunkin'. Apparently Dunkin' barely runs at all. Dunkin' stopped trying. Our next chain is running out of time. 6 Jack in the Box. Jack in the Box just turned 75. It might not make it to 76. The chain is closing up to 200 locations, sitting on $1.7 billion in debt, suspended its dividend, started selling off real estate just to stay afloat. In 2022, they bought Del Taco for $575 million. In 2025, they sold it for $115 million. That's not a bad investment. That's lighting nearly $500 million on fire in 3 years, and the food earns none of those profits. Their famous tacos contain textured vegetable protein mixed with beef, but they're not labeled as meat alternatives. They're not labeled as beef either. They exist in some gray middle ground where nobody really knows what they're eating, and people order millions of them weekly. One major franchisee, 70 locations, already filed for bankruptcy. Others are publicly blaming corporate for destroying their businesses. Jack in the Box isn't just on this list for the food. The whole operation is coming apart at the seams, like a jumbo jack left on a dashboard in July. If you've ever worked at any of these chains, tell us in the comments. Was it this bad at your location? The system. Take a breath, because this part isn't about one chain. It's about all of them. You've been hearing the same trick for 10 minutes. Fresh doesn't mean fresh. Grilled doesn't mean grilled. Clean doesn't mean clean. That's not an accident. That's the system working exactly as designed. In America, food companies can add new chemicals to your food without FDA approval. They hire their own scientists, declare the ingredient generally recognized as safe, and start selling it. Between 2000 and 2021, 99% of new chemicals entered the food supply this way. 99%. The companies selling you the food are also the ones who decided it was safe. Nobody checked their homework. In 2022, Daily Harvest labeled Terra flour as safe using this exact process. Nearly 400 people got sick. Some lost their gallbladders. The FDA didn't ban it until 2024. Europe bans over 2,000 food additives that are perfectly legal here. Red dye number 3, linked to cancer in rats 40 years ago, the FDA finally banned it in January 2025. But companies have until 2027 to remove it. Check your pantry. It might still be in there. The last 5 on this list are where it goes from that's gross to how is this legal? 5. Bread. Panera means bread basket. For decades, trained bakers made fresh dough every morning. That was the whole identity. In 2025, Panera every single one of its fresh dough facilities reheated. The company named after bread stopped making its own bread, and their own CEO confirmed the quality cuts. Paul Carbone publicly told media the company squeezed food costs and squeezed labor. His words. Salads switched from romaine to Hafisburg. They stopped slicing cherry tomatoes to save on labor. Portions shrank. He called it death by 1,000 cuts. That's not a whistleblower. That's the man running the company, telling you they made your food worse on purpose. The lemonade. In 2022 and 2023, 2 people died after drinking Panera's charged lemonade, a drink with more caffeine on the self-serve counter. The sign said, plant-based and clean. All lawsuits were quietly settled. Panera called pulling the drink a menu transformation, not a recall, a transformation. And then your data. In 2024, a cyber attack exposed social security numbers of nearly 150,000 employees. In January 2026, weeks ago, hackers breached Panera again, dumping over 5 million customer accounts on the dark web. That's roughly the entire population of Ireland. Exposed. 2 breaches in under 2 years. CEO, who went on the record admitting they made everything worse to protect margins. Food as it should be? Sure it is. Panera hid behind the word clean. Our next chain paid the largest criminal fine in food safety history, and then got caught cheating customers on camera. 4. Chipotle. Food with integrity. Fast food's moral lance. Build your bowl. Rice, beans, protein. It feels transparent. You can see everything, right? You can't see the E. coli. Between 20 virus, salmonella, and E. coli states. A single 2018 Ohio outbreak sickened over 600 people by itself. That's a full high school cafeteria from one location. In 2020, Chipotle pleaded guilty and paid a $25 million criminal fine, the largest in food safety history, for serving adulterated food that caused over 1,100 illnesses. Let me say that differently. The chain that built its identity on integrity holds the all-time record for the largest criminal food safety assessed in America. The CDC found employees failing to follow the company's own protocols. Inspections turned up rodent droppings, improper sanitization, and temperature violations. That's what integrity looked like behind the line you couldn't see. Then in May 2024, a shrinkflation scandal blew up on TikTok. Customers filmed what they actually received versus what was advertised. A Wells Fargo analyst ordered in 7 in New York City. Portion sizes varied widely. Chipotle pledged $50 million to fix it. By November, shareholders sued. Chipotle pulled in over $9 billion in revenue in 2024. They had the money to give you a full portion. They chose not to. The E. coli was bad, but the portion scandal might be worse because at least the E. coli was accidental. Skimping your bowl, that's a boardroom decision. $25 million, largest in history. And they still couldn't fill your bowl. Five Guys doesn't have a criminal record. What they have might be worse because at least Chipotle gave you the option of a salad. 3. Five Guys. Five Guys. Fresh ground beef, hand-cut fries. The place you go when you want a real burger. Nobody walks into Five Guys counting calories, but there's a difference between a splurge and a health event. In October 2024, PlushCare compared nutritional profiles of 16 major chains. Five Guys didn't just rank last, they lapped the field. Their single cheeseburger scored a 50 on the unhealthiness index. The next worst? 32. That's not a competition, that's a different category entirely. Five Guys carries 73% more saturated fat per any other chain tested. Those large fries, the ones they stuff into the bag until it's overflowing, the oil bleeding through the paper before you even get to your table, pack 1,314 calories by themselves. More than 5 Krispy Kreme donuts. One meal, burger, fries, shake, blows past every daily limit for saturated fat and sodium. A family of 4 at Five Guys runs $60 easy. Do that twice a month and you spend $400 a year on the unhealthiest chain in America. If your family's Friday night treat is once a week, CDC dietary calculations say that's enough to put on over 12 pounds in 3 months. Once a week. Not every day. Once. That's not unique on this list. There is no lighter option. None. No salad, no grilled chicken, no smart choice. The smallest thing, the little hamburger, is 540 calories and 26 grams of fat. Every other chain gives you at least one door to pretend you're making a better choice. Five Guys doesn't even give you the door. On their menu. There isn't one. Five Guys gives you no escape hatch. But our next chain gave you a promise. A specific public health and then quietly broke it. 2. Chick-fil-A is America's most trusted fast food chain. The polite employees. The my pleasure. The line around the block that somehow moves fast. In 2024, they crossed $9 billion in revenue. In spring 2024, Chick-fil-A reversed a decade-long commitment. Since 2014, they'd served chicken raised with no antibiotics ever. Quietly, they switched to a weaker stand animal-specific antibiotics. How did they announce this? A press release on their website. Not a campaign, not a TV ad, leaving most customers completely in the dark. $9 billion in revenue, and they still couldn't keep the antibiotics promise. Or they could, and decided margins mattered more. Now the chicken itself, over 30 ingredients, including dimethylpolysiloxane. If that sounds familiar, it's also found in silly putty. When your chicken shares an ingredient list with a children's toy, the waffle fries, cooked in peanut oil that stays in rotation for up to 2 weeks, just topped off and kept going. The signature sandwich marinates in pickle juice brine for up to 2 days before it's cooked. 2 days soaking in salt water before it even touches the fryer? That's not marinating, that's sodium loading with a southern accent. The original sandwich with waffle fries, 800 calories and over 750 milligrams of sodium. The Cobb salad, the Smart Order, 30 calories with serious sodium. Most people aren't ordering that anyway. They're getting the sandwich and the fries and telling themselves it's fine because the employee smiled. That my pleasure costs you about $9 a visit. Twice a week, that's over $900 a year. For chicken raised on a promise they already broke. Chick-fil-A broke one promise. Our final chain has been breaking one so fundamental, so quietly, that most Americans still don't realize it. 1. Panda Express. The original Chinese kitchen. No MSG. Technically, they're not scooping MSG from a jar, but your body can't tell the difference. The orange chicken, 490 calories per serving with over 50 grams of sugar hiding in that sticky coating. You're basically eating candy shaped like chicken, and nobody gets one serving. A full plate with 2 entrees can blow past 1,500 calories and 3,000 milligrams of sodium. That's more salt than most people should eat in a day, from one lunch. The wok fresh marketing won't mention this part. Those noodles arrive frozen from factories. The wok cooking is really just reheating with extra oil. And the food sits in steam tables for hours between servings. Ever wonder why the Beijing beef looks so perfectly caramelized? Darkening agents. They're literally painting the food to look more appetizing. And if you're on blood thinners or blood pressure meds, those hidden sodium loads and MSG interactions are exactly what your pharmacist warned. We do not add MSG. Technically true, functionally meaningless. The ingredient does the work before it ever hits the wok. And that sentence right there is the story of this entire list. 15 chains, 15 versions of the same trick, using technically true language to hide what's actually happening to your food. What you can actually do. 20 minutes of bad news. Here's what you can do. None of it takes more than 30 seconds. Check inspection scores before you eat. Most counties publish them online. Google your county plus restaurant inspection scores. 10 seconds. Skip the sugary drinks. A large soda or shake can add 500 to 1,700 calories to your meal. Water eliminates the single worst offender on any fast food menu. Watch the sodium, not just the calories. Sodium is the silent wrecker. If an item crosses 1,500 milligrams, pick something else. If an ingredient label reads like a chemistry exam, there's a reason. The EU bans over 2,000 additives that are legal here. If you can't pronounce it, your body probably can't process it either. And for families in food deserts where fast food isn't a choice but the only option within miles, that's exactly why inspections and enforcement matter. The system should protect everyone, not just people who can afford Whole Foods. I'm not telling you to never eat out. I'm telling you to eat with your eyes open. If you've worked inside any of these chains, any of them, drop your story in the comments. The best ones are getting featured in the next video. Which chain should we investigate next? Pizza, sit-down restaurants, grocery stores? Tell me. Whatever gets the most votes gets the full treatment. Here's what I know about you. The next time you pull into a drive-thru, something from this video is going to flash through your head. You won't be able to unknow what you just learned. And honestly, that's the point. Because the only thing these chains are counting on, the only thing keeping this whole system running, is you not paying attention. You're paying attention now.
I'll take a couple McChickens and a large fry, wash them down with a Diet Coke. Sure, I'll get a little gas, but I'm low on cash, so I might as well feel broke. The Dairy Queen and the Burger King are making love in the rain, while the Taco Bell is just a ringing like hell as we all circle the drain. Live fast, die fast, eat fast food, feed the mean machine that's filling up on me and you. Cheaper than a home-cooked treat,
It's like fentanyl you can eat. Beef cows raised in fields of shit, sad imported pork. Chickens dead on a Tyson truck, blowing feathers on your fork. Private equity firm burgers, they're playing both sides of the game. They got a direct line to the chemo dime. It's from the cradle to the grave. Live fast, die fast, eat fast food. Feed the mean machine that's a filling up on me and you. Plastic cancerous thalamus rubbing off in the sugar and the salt. And the doc should be in real soon to let you know that it's all your fault. Maybe nobody's forcing the nuggets. Maybe Ronald ain't holding the noose. But the vampire pricks in power are all counting on you to lose. Live fast, die fast, eat fast food. Feed the mean machine that's filling up on me and you. Live fast, die fast, eat fast food. Feed the mean machine that's filling up on me and you.
Hello, health champions. Today we're going to talk about the top 10 foods that have been shut down or are about to be restricted by RFK. And finally, after having talked about these issues for decades about how food isn't food anymore and how we're being poisoned from the inside, finally, there is a US Secretary of Health for the first time ever who agrees more with actual practitioners of health rather than the mainstream medical establishment. And with health practitioners, I mean those who help people get healthy, like chiropractors, like naturopaths, like people in functional medicine, and also those few wonderful heretics of the medical profession, the medical doctors who have gone against the mainstream of their profession because it doesn't work. And now finally, US Secretary of Health who speak the language that we do. The first thing it's trying to get rid of is a bunch of artificial colors, such as red 3, red number 40, yellow number 5, and blue number 1. And these have been already banned in many countries, or even most countries around the world, because it's well recognized how dangerous they are and how much harm they do. They're strongly linked to hyperactivity, especially in kids, to behavioral issues, and also to allergies. And it causes thyroid cancer in rats, and that's why red number 3 has been banned from cosmetics. So get this, the FDA has a clause called the Delaney Clause that prohibits, that outlaws any additive that is known to cause cancer. So now you can't put it on your skin since 1990, but you can still eat it. But now, since many manufacturers are anticipating that it will be outlawed, now very quickly they can start reformulating and get rid of it. So what that's telling us is that this stuff is not hard to get rid of. It's just a matter of wanting to. It's not expensive, it's not difficult, it's just lazy, and if they don't have an incentive and if nobody tells them what's healthy or not, then they're just going to do whatever they've been doing. Number 2 is Kennedy wants to get rid of SNAP junk food. And SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps. And here Kennedy says that tax-funded programs should promote health, not disease. What a concept. We shouldn't pay for people to get sick. So he wants to stop soda, candy, and ultra-processed foods from any government program because it is known, very well known, that sugar causes obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, and doesn't only cause it, but it does so especially in low income communities. So if they're going to get sick, and then we get to pay for it again with their medical bills. But now, of course, the critics call it paternalistic, and it says that this unfairly targets the poor. And I'm just curious, what's unfair about trying to keep someone healthy? Why should we pay for junk food? Should we pay for booze? Should we pay for cigarettes? Where do you draw the line to not call it unfair? I think it's totally obvious that tax funds should go toward keeping people healthy. But it just goes to show, in my opinion, that we have, as a country, as a society, and as an entire Western culture, we have absolutely no concept of what food is anymore. Number 3 is high fructose corn syrup. And Kennedy wants to discourage and reduce the use in schools and in government programs. So again, if we're using tax funds for this, then it shouldn't be to make people sicker. And high fructose corn syrup is very clearly one of the major problems with obesity and the metabolic disease pandemic that we see in the world today. But this issue becomes even more complicated because of corn subsidies, because the entire industry of corn is subsidized. And as Kennedy points out, that makes corn artificially cheap. So junk food becomes artificially cheap. And on the counter side, we have, of course, the corn lobbyists and the big food companies who say that there will be massive profit implications. And I don't doubt that in any way, but that's not a don't have to do something about it. Item number 4 is about seed oil. So Kennedy wants to get rid of or restrict the use of canola, soybean, corn, sunflower, and safflower oil. And why is that? Because they are sky high. They are so rich in omega-6 polyunsaturated, promote inflammation and contribute to the obesity and metabolic disease epidemic. So the more of these omega-6 oils we use, the more we're going to see of obesity, insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and dementia. So Kennedy wants to remove these types of oils from schools. We shouldn't give these to the kids, but instead, we should give them healthy fats. We should replace those with olive oil, with coconut oil, and with, I could hardly believe my ears when I saw that. I don't think it's less than 100 videos that I've talked about the healthy fats being extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, and butter. And here we hear it again from the US Secretary of Health. This is very, very hopeful. But of course, on mainstream nutrition, so-called experts claim that the polyunsaturated fatty acids, the vegetable oils that have made us so sick that we've been eating since the 1960s, 70s now, they promote those and say that they are beneficial when replacing saturated fat. So again, the false fallacy of throwing all sorts of fats on the bandwagon and saying that all saturated fats are bad, which of course is not true. The natural fats that we just talked about, coconut oil and butter, and even cooking oils from lard and tallow and goose fat, those are very, very stable when they come from a healthy source and we don't massively overheat them, then they are stable and safe and healthy fats. Food number 5 Kennedy wants to get rid of is ultra-processed foods out of the schools. So he thinks we should no longer serve these things to kids, things like frozen pizza, chicken nuggets, sugary cereals, chips, and shelf-stable desserts. And what makes something shelf-stable, that it can sit there on the shelf for months and months, course, is sugar and seed oils and preservatives and additives. That's what makes it shelf stable. And these foods are chronic cognitive decline and early mortality. And the state of Arizona has set as a goal to phase these out and get rid of them by 2026. And this, of course, is strongly endorsed by Kennedy. And in the junk, we should have a diet that's based on whole foods so that we can start reducing these chronic diseases that are now starting in childhood. And number 6 he wants to get rid of is artificial sweeteners. And if you have watched some of my videos in the past, you know that I always put these artificial sweeteners, some of the worst toxins ever. And they include aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, and acesulfame K, or acesulfame potassium. And we know that they're linked to potential carcinogenicity, and that unfortunately we can find them in thousands or even tens of thousands of different foods, such as diet soda, chewing gum, yogurt, flavored water, meal bars, and even chewable kids' vitamins. So he wants to start with educational campaigns, even if there is no formal ban on these things yet. Number 7 is GRAS loophole reform, and GRAS stands for generally recognized as safe. And this dates back to 1958, when they felt that not everything should need to be tested and proven. Some things were just kind of self-evident, and they were referring to things like vinegar, salt, and baking soda that you shouldn't have to test. You should just generally recognize them as safe. But in the continuation of that, in 2025, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of toxic synthetical chemicals in our foods. And here's what this little loophole is all about. So as a producer, you can self-certify. You don't have to go through some third-party certification. You can hire your own expert, and if you pay this expert enough and he says, yeah, I think this is safe, then you can start using that chemical. And get this, you're not even required to notify the FDA. You don't have to tell them a thing. You just have to hire this expert and they say it's safe, and now you start producing. And as a result of this loophole, there are now thousands of substances, of toxic compounds that have not gone through proper testing. And I've done many videos in the past where I point out how these toxic substances are banned in most countries, and yet we continue to use them. And these are things like BHA, BHT, which is a synthetic antioxidant. We have titanium dioxide, which is a whitening agent. We have a preservative called propyl gallate, and we have flavor enhancers and emulsifiers by the hundreds. And these are all toxins that have been let into the system by this GRAS loophole, and that I have pointed out in my videos, and that are banned in most countries. So Kennedy says that this loophole puts the public's health at risk, and it erodes consumer trust. So he proposes that all new compounds should have mandatory FDA notification. You have to tell the FDA, and you have to have third-party testing and a review of all GRAS determinations. He says this should especially pertain to novel and synthetic compounds, and if there's any known risks or issues with them. So if they're linked to cancer, ADHD, dysbiosis, or something like that. And that on all products, there should be full transparency and third-party testing, and that you should not be able to pay for your own experts. Item number 8 is raw milk, which he is in favor of. So he says that it is nutrient rich, it is closer to nature, and it offers immune benefits. So basically, when you get raw milk, it has all the enzymes that you need to break it down. It has certain bacteria that support your gut function and your immune system, and therefore it's much closer to nature. Most people who have problems digesting dairy is because the dairy is pasteurized. And of course, all the species who drink mother's milk is to feed their babies, and of course, that milk is never pasteurized. So when we pasteurize it, when we heat it, we change it. It's not the same thing anymore. And Kennedy says that the current restrictions on raw milk is a form of government overreach. He says that we should allow sales of milk across state lines, and we should not just allow it for pets. We should sell it to the end consumer, humans, including humans, and we should protect local farmers who provide this product. Food number 9, he wants to stop sugary cereals and yogurt. So a few examples would be kids yogurt such as Go-Gurt, or flavored yogurt such as Yoplait strawberry banana, kids cereals such as Trix and Fruit Loops. And he says that he's very opposed to these being marketed as health products, as health foods, when in fact they often have more sugar than desserts, and they're just full of chemicals and artificial colors and flavors. And therefore, he suggests that we should not offer these in schools and in government-funded programs. So again, if we pay for it as taxpayers, it should not make people sick. And the 10th thing he wants to shut down or restrict is processed meats. So things like hot dog, sausage, pepperoni, deli meats, and bacon. And the reason is that they have sodium nitrite or sodium nitrate in them, which is a synthetic preservative. And the problem here is that this synthetic preservative can turn into a carcinogen, a known carcinogen called nitrosamine, when exposed to acid or high heat. So we could get some of these harmful effects from stomach acid, but the much bigger effect would be when we expose it to high heat. So if we grill hot dogs, if we cook sausage, if we fry bacon, or throw pepperoni on the pizza, now it's exposed to very high temperatures and it can turn into these nitrosamines. And while I completely agree with Kennedy on this item, that there are tons of different deli meat products, processed meat products that are full of chemicals and full of junk, I do want to point out that it doesn't have to be that way. That there are companies that make deli meats without these things, that source the meats very naturally, that have organic and grass-fed products. And also, sometimes they include natural nitrites, and natural nitrites do not react the same way on the grill. And in addition to the sodium nitrite, these products very often have other chemicals and preservatives and additives as well. So Kennedy wants to stop these products in government-funded programs like schools and the SNAP, while the critics suggest that in doing that, he would be overstepping personal choice. And again, Kennedy suggests that tax money should not be promoting disease. And I would really want to question, when you're talking about personal choices of 5-year-olds up to 18-year-olds, these are the ages where they eat school lunches. What sort of personal choices do they have about food? What do they know about food? Is it even on the agenda? It's like, how interested are kids in health and the healthfulness of food? Well, I'll answer it one way. So on my channel, the percentages of viewers that I have between ages 13 and 17 is 0.1%. 1 in 1,000 viewers is in that range, basically a teenager. And below that age, below 13, it is 0. None of those kids are watching health-related movies, at least not mine, but rather the people over 45 account for 74.4% of the viewers on this channel. And what that means is that these kids' parents aren't watching either. It's the grandparents that watch, because that's when you get old enough to start getting on some medication and start doubting your immortality, and you start having some issues to look out for. So if you are a grandparent, then watch these videos and then pass on that information to your kids. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to love that one. And if you truly want to master health by understanding how the body really works, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell, and turn on all the notifications so you never miss a life-saving video.
When RFK Jr. joined forces with President Trump in 2024, he brought with him a voting bloc of mothers who wanted dangerous chemicals out of their kids' food. But now the MAGA and MAHA movements are clashing over the herbicide glyphosate, the most widely used weed killer in U.S. agriculture. Before the 2024 election, RFK Jr. tweeted that glyphosate was one of the likely culprits in America's chronic disease epidemic. So it came as a surprise to many when the president signed an executive order on Wednesday providing immunity for producers of glyphosate-based herbicides, which may have been linked to cancer in some studies. The administration says the shift in policy over the weed killer was due to its necessity for national security and defense. But the MAHA moms don't agree. Zen Honeycutt, the founder of Moms Across America, tweeted her disgust with the move, saying, "Literally sick to my stomach. It's going to kill and sterilize countless American people." With these competing visions, greatness versus health, which one will prevail? Another prominent activist behind the movement is Kelly Ryerson, co-executive director of American Regeneration, and she joins me now. Kelly, thank you so much for being here. So for those of us who are not familiar with what glyphosate is, why do you say it's dangerous to our health?
Yeah, glyphosate is the most used pesticide of all time. It is the most widely used pesticide in this country. We have farmers using it across the country. The problem is that it's so widely used and has been sold as being non-toxic and safe, has been repeatedly reapproved for use, but is in actuality tied to a number of different diseases, including infertility. It's connected to liver disease, kidney disease. It attacks the microbiome. It kills the beneficial gut bacteria. Really, all of these different conditions that now you're seeing on massive population scale. It's a chemical that you will find in your urine, your breast milk, your hair. It's been shown to show up in semen. It's been shown to kill sperm. And we have this fertility crisis in this country. There's so many problems with this particular chemical, and that's why it became a banner chemical for MAHA.
So, Kelly, this executive order was put in under the Defense Production Act. The president's executive order argues that there's no direct one-for-one chemical alternative to glyphosate-based herbicides, and that major restrictions of glyphosate would result in economic losses for growers and make it untenable for them to grow food. So this EO is essentially arguing that they're trying to prevent a crisis in terms of growing food, especially for small-scale farmers. But you're talking about another crisis, which is one of disease and health. So how do these two things reconcile?
Yeah, it's complicated because it is true that right now our farming system at large is dependent on glyphosate. The system has been built around supporting these chemicals in a chemical agriculture system. And so that is something that the country needs to be moving away from by supporting regenerative agriculture practices to be able to decrease the use of these pesticides. That's something that Secretary Brooke Rollins has started to do with her $700 million investment into regenerative agriculture recently. But what's really missing here, and I think what's so enraging about this executive order, is it's not for now. For national security, we need to preserve this supply so that we're not supplying from China. But in the meantime, we're going to be investing in all of these other things to make sure that farmers can get off this chemical treadmill and we can decrease the toxicity of our food supply. That's just not something that's happening. The other thing that's really important to note is that the timing of this is very, very suspicious because right now Bayer, which manufactures glyphosate, is working really hard to get immunity from lawsuits so that we can't sue when we get sick from exposure. They're trying to pass these bills on the state level and the federal level. The president went and backed Bayer's bid to go to SCOTUS and have a lawsuit that if Bayer wins, we will no longer be able to sue any pesticide manufacturer when we get sick from exposure. That's 57,000 different pesticides. And now he's come in with this the same week that Bayer has claimed that there'll be a settlement of some kind for all cancer victims of this carcinogen. And the problem with that settlement is that all cases going forward, they will still be having to pay out because they're not stopping the sale of glyphosate. So instead, he's put this immunity to just put a cap on it, just like they did with Agent Orange.
Well, like you said, it's complicated. Farmers that I talk to, big and small, say it's essential to them being able to produce food for the country. And of course, you just talked to us all about the health risks and the evidence that you have that is connected to very serious chronic disease. Kelly Ryerson, thank you for being with us tonight, and I hope to have you back to continue the conversation about this. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.
Hey, this is Brian. Welcome back to the Disturbing Illusion channel. On this channel, we don't make wild assertions, but we do ask a lot of questions. And I'd rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. I want to show you this clip of this video that I saw today on the X platform, and we're going to talk about it because there are some significant questions that we need to ask. And if we don't get answers from the outside, maybe we can search for those answers from within. Check this out right here.
My kids were sitting here eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch, or maybe their favorite, Lucky Charms. Now, I was a contractor for 22 years, and we used to do paint prep, do cleaning and things like that. And I'm sitting there reading a box, and I noticed that it says it contains trisodium phosphate. This, TSP, let's see, trisodium phosphate, harmful if swallowed, eye irritant, skin irritant, if ingested, call poison control. Poison control. Let's see here. Trisodium phosphate. And it's not way down here with the vitamins. It's way up here. That's on Lucky Charms. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. We've got Star Wars. Trisodium phosphate. This is a carcinogen that we're feeding our kids. And General Mills is putting it in all of their stinking cereal. If I sprinkled trisodium phosphate on my kids' cereal, if I put this on there, I would go to prison for poisoning my children. But yet, they're putting it in our cereals for our kids to eat.
Now, I know what the argument here is. It depends on the amount and the concentration and the form. You're talking about household grade versus industrial grade. So I went to ChatGPT, and I know a lot of people don't like this, but it's kind of interesting what you see people put into an algorithm. So I asked ChatGPT, is trisodium phosphate dangerous to ingest? It says just outright, yes, no beating around the bush. Yes, trisodium phosphate can be dangerous if ingested. It's a strong alkaline chemical, often used as a cleaning agent, degreaser, and in some industrial applications. If swallowed, they say, this is ChatGPT, it can cause irritations or burns to the mouth, throat, esophagus, and stomach. Ingesting significant amounts may lead to more serious issues such as nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and potentially more severe complications like difficulty breathing or kidney damage. Yeah, I would say that's pretty severe. If someone accidentally ingests trisodium phosphate, says ChatGPT, it's important to seek medical help right away. It's always a good idea to use safety precautions when handling chemicals like TSP to avoid any accidents. So then I asked, because if this is the case that, hey, if you get this, you need to seek medical help right away. If you ingest it, it's dangerous if ingested. I said, then why is it in some breakfast cereals? Great question. Trisodium phosphate can sometimes be found in small quantities in breakfast cereals and other processed foods, but it's not the same as the industrial strength cleaning version you might be thinking of. In food, trisodium phosphate is used as a food additive, often as an acidity regulator or emulsifier. It helps control the pH balance in processed foods, maintain the texture, and sometimes improve color. That's all it's for. The amounts used in food are regulated and generally considered safe by food safety authorities like the FDA. You could just stop being so concerned, Brian. Yeah, it's dangerous if you ingest it. Yeah, you need to call medical help if you find out somebody did ingest it, but in small quantities in food, it's okay because the FDA says. However, because it's a strong alkaline compound, its use is very controlled, and the levels in food like cereals are far lower than what you'd find in cleaning products. Okay, no duh. So while it may sound a bit alarming due to its industrial uses, when it's in food, it's there in such small amounts that it's not harmful. Still, it's always a good idea to be mindful of food ingredients, especially if you have sensitivities or allergies. So I respond to this. So you admit that trisodium phosphate is dangerous if ingested, that it can cause physical problems in the body, including difficulty breathing or kidney damage, and that if it's accidentally ingested, a person must seek medical help right away. But then in startling contradiction, you claim it's okay to ingest TSP in small quantities because it's considered safe by food safety authorities like the FDA. So are you saying, ChatGPT, that a substance in any quantity that's that's dangerous to ingest need only be declared safe by the authorities in order for it to magically become safe? How could such an assertion even be considered close to credible? Are you aware that some studies indicate that TSP is a carcinogen in any quantity? Is it possible that the steady rise in cancer rates can be attributed to ingesting substances like TSP, and that not everything the government declares as safe or effective actually is? And the reason I say this is because routinely I see a lot of people say, hey, just cool your jets, calm down, don't be so paranoid, including ChatGPT and whoever created the algorithm for this. Hey, don't worry. Just trust the authorities. They know what's safe. They know it's effective. Don't question it. Just follow along. Don't ask any of these hard questions. Are you aware of how many times the FDA got it absolutely wrong when declaring a product safe? Matter of fact, after you answer my questions, I want you to cite the top 10 times the FDA declared something safe when it actually wasn't, from food to pharmaceuticals. ChatGPT says you bring up a very important point regarding the complexities of safety when it comes to chemicals and additives in food. You're absolutely right that the concept of safety is not always clear cut, and it's important to critically examine both scientific guidelines and the track record of regulatory agencies. I can appreciate your concerns, so let's break this down. TSP and safety in food. You're correct that trisodium phosphate in large quantities can be harmful and cause issues like irritation, burns, or even more severe reactions in extreme cases. The key distinction here is the amount used in food products. So if you use a little bit of poison as opposed to a lot of poison, you're okay. When added in trace amounts within regulated limits, TSP is considered safe by the FDA and other regulatory bodies based on the current evidence available. However, this doesn't mean that consuming large amounts of it is safe, nor does it eliminate the fact that TSP is a strong alkaline substance that has potential risks. And this right here tells me that when you're eating processed food, you're playing a nutritional game of Russian roulette. Regulatory agencies, the FDA, like any regulatory body, bases its safety assessments on current scientific knowledge. While they aim to protect the public, they are not infallible. Yeah, they're definitely not infallible. And history has shown that some substances once deemed safe later turned out to be problematic. How about extremely dangerous? In some cases, really deadly. This is why there's ongoing research and reevaluation of substances over time. I understand your skepticism, and it's healthy to question such declarations, especially when looking at things like the long-term health effects or new scientific data that may not have been fully considered at the time of initial approval. As for your concerns about cancer and TSP, the potential for TSP to be carcinogenic is not something that is widely accepted in the scientific community at the moment. However, as with any substance, there's always ongoing research into its long-term effects. The connection between chemicals and cancer is a highly complex and multifactorial issue, so it's crucial to take a nuanced view of both the evidence and the regulatory decisions. And then ChatGPT says you're absolutely right that the FDA has had moments where it declared substances as safe that later turned out to be harmful. This can happen when new scientific data emerges or when the initial risk assessment didn't consider all variables or long-term effects. Yeah, that's the concern right there. That is the concern. And why wouldn't they? Maybe they're incentivized to get this product on the shelf as soon as possible because maybe somebody stuffed their pockets. The most famous examples include things like thalidomide, used in the 1950s and 60s, which led to birth defects, or more recently, the controversy surrounding certain food additives and pharmaceuticals. And that's what we're talking about right here, a food additive. As for the top 10 things that the FDA approved that they later found out were dangerous, we're just going to give you a quick list right here. Remember thalidomide? Thank God my mom was smart enough to steer clear of any and all pharmaceuticals. If you want to see what thalidomide does to little babies in the womb, just type it in on the internet, look at the pictures, and just be horrified. Fen-phen in the 1990s, DES, Vioxx. You remember Vioxx? Now, they say right here, a painkiller that was withdrawn from the market after being linked to heart attacks and strokes, despite being initially approved and widely prescribed. Now, on the issue of widely prescribed, you got to know that Vioxx was an anti-inflammatory that was intended to treat arthritis, and it was the subject of one of the largest recalls in history. After it was approved in 1999, it was prescribed to over 20 million people. Matter of fact, it was one of the most widely prescribed drugs in 2003. The following year, it was recalled, but the dangers of Vioxx were not only made known to the FDA, but they were also made known to the drug's producer, Merck, back in the year 2000. So for 4 years, Merck and the FDA allowed Vioxx to be sold. There's the sodium nitrate approval, BPA, you got the IUD called Dalcon Shield, Accutane, lead in paint and gasoline, and you got the Ritalin/ADHD medications. So getting back to trisodium phosphate and other possibly dangerous chemicals in our food supply, specifically processed foods, what do you think the good way to go would be? Do you think it's a better idea to gear toward whole foods? Or do you think eating processed foods is really no big deal? Is there a gray area here? I mean, what's the nuance I'm missing? Doesn't seem like a good idea to sprinkle your food with known poison, no matter the amount or concentration. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comments section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list or my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel further, grab a shirt like this one right here. We live in a world where smart people are silent, so stupid people won't be offended. Become a channel member. If you want to support me further and you don't want to have a whole bunch of money taken out for fees, I have my Cash App link and my Patreon link in the description below. I will see you guys in the next video.
These are the worst waters we tested in 2026. First on the list is Topo Chico, coming in at 38 out of 100, due to it having the highest amount of forever chemicals, or PFAs, out of any bottled water. Second, Kirkland Signature Water, coming in at 41 out of 100, due to it having 9 times the health guideline of trihalomethanes, which are a known endocrine disruptor and damage your reproductive system. Third, a surprising one we tested was Mountain Valley Spring Water, which turned out was okay, but did have very high amounts of arsenic, 40 times the recommended guideline. Then we have Walmart Spring Water, scoring at 25 out of 100 due to having 10 times the recommended amount of radium-226 and 228, along with high amounts of bromate. The famous Fiji water scored 25 out of 100 as well, due to having high heavy metal content, such as chromium, arsenic, even some forever chemicals as well. And finally, Essentia scored 10 out of 100, due to having trihalomethanes, forever chemicals, bromate, and some phthalates. We analyze and review every water brand and publish the complete findings inside the Neutron app, so you can see how healthy or unhealthy your water actually is.
We don't drink the Dasani, it's unhealthy, throw that shit away. It's acidic and got recalled up in the UK. We don't drink no Aquafina, it's chlorine up in that bitch. They must be trying to kill us, must be trying to put us in a ditch. I thought Fiji was gonna heal me, but that was a lie though. 2 million bottles recalled, damn that's high bro. That's so pure life, you pure it off, and that water dead. It don't got no minerals, no nutrients going to your head. How does smart water make you smart when it's not natural? It's acidic, it's not alkaline, so yeah, it got to go. Gloss is also acidic, these people do not get by help. All these bottled waters, go ahead and take it off the shelf. The best water you should drink, it comes from a natural spring. It's full of minerals, here's your body, you don't need a sink. Go to findespring.com to find one near you. That water is healthy and it's free, it's also rare too. If you want it shipped to you, comment water then. Straight from God, it comes Healing Springs and it's 10 out of 10. Go to watersofacres.com, please tap in. And help people stop drinking trash water, send this to your friends.
This is why you should always check your chocolate before eating it, because when this woman bought her favorite expensive Lindt chocolate bar, she was admiring how creamy and smooth it looked, ready to enjoy a delicious treat.
So I'm sitting here enjoying some chocolate, waiting in the pickup line to get my daughter, and it's a Lindt chocolate, and I'm just admiring how creamy and smooth it is. I set it down and I'm looking closer, and let me see if I can zoom. There are like tiny specks. And after further observation, I see that the specks are moving. So if you could take a look, they're definitely moving. There's definitely a colony of something here. I'm over 7 months pregnant and I'm like, what in the entire F did I just eat?
For the first time in human history, vanilla is now being derived from petroleum. Major brands are now relying on compounds like guaiacol to mimic the real thing.
And this petroleum system is already inside your favorite bars. Hershey's Vanilla starts as a refined petrochemical flavor base, oxidized, heat-treated, and chemically stripped until it collapses into a single molecule. Vanillin is then fused into your bar with cheap fats and PGPR, a gut disruptor masking just 11% cacao, the legal floor to still call it milk chocolate. Oreo, Kinder, and Mars all flagged artificial vanilla, severe processing, and heavy metals.
After what I just learned, I will never let my baby daughter drink out of this bottle ever again. Most parents think stainless steel is a safe option. Clean, non-toxic, better for you than plastic. But here's what nobody tells you. Cheap grade stainless steel leaches nickel and chromium when it touches acidic liquids like lemon water or orange juice. Your kid's drinking metal with every single sip. Nickel disrupts histamine pathways, and that means rashes, eczema, mood swings, irritability, and kids are 4 times more sensitive than these metals than adults are. Acidic drinks plus low-grade steel equals micrometal release. It's a chemical reaction happening inside their little bodies every time they drink out of this metal bottle. And this is on millions of bottles of Amazon marketed as eco-friendly or safe for kids. So what do? You look for 18-8 or 316 surgical-grade stainless steel. That's the stuff hospitals use. Or go with glass bottles. Check the bottom of the bottle right now. If it doesn't say 18-8 or 316, toss it. Your kids' histamine levels will thank you. If you're dealing with weird mystery rashes or symptoms that you can't explain, maybe it's the water bottle. I'm Drew Canoli reminding you how important it is to protect the next generation.
The hidden ingredient in junk food that acts like a detergent. I want you to think about what dish soap actually does. You squirt some on a greasy pan and it dissolves the grease by stripping off the protective layer off the surface of the pan. Now imagine the same process happening inside your gut. And I'm talking about this very delicate, thin layer of mucus on the inside of your gut that is there to protect you. There's a chemical that is so commonly added to our foods that we just consider it normal. And that chemical does the exact same thing to the protective lining of your intestines that dish soap does to the grease on a pan. And once the lining is gone, things that were never supposed to reach your bloodstream start reaching your bloodstream. They start getting through a leaky gut. I'm talking about bacteria, toxins, partially digested proteins from your food. And most people have never actually heard about it unless they read ingredients. And the bad news is, chances are you've been eating it unknowingly on a daily basis. Let me show you where this ingredient is actually hiding. It's in ice cream, it's in chocolate bars, it's in salad dressing, it's in plant-based milk, it's in bread, protein bars, peanut butter, coffee creamer, mayonnaise, and baby formula. It's estimated that this ingredient is roughly in 60% of all packaged foods on the grocery store shelves. And the wild part is when I tell you what this is, you've probably heard about it before, but had no idea what it really is. It goes by names like polysorbate 80, mono and diglycerides, carboxymethylcellulose, and something called carrageenan. And I know this sounds like chemistry. Well, it is chemistry. It's chemicals. And these are all collectively called emulsifiers. Emulsifiers force the oil and water to mix so that the processed food looks smoother, so that it feels creamy when it's in your mouth, and it will last longer on the shelf. That's the only thing they do for the food. And so if they didn't put those in there, they wouldn't mix that well. So this is how it works. Your gut has a built-in defense mechanism. This mechanism is a thick layer of mucus that coats the inside of your intestines. On one side, you have trillions of bacteria. On the other side, you have your bloodstream. In fact, all of the food that you eat eventually gets through and goes into the bloodstream. But you also have your immune system right there too. That mucus layer separates those two things like a barrier. And emulsifiers, by their very nature, dissolve that protective barrier. I mean, that's literally their chemical function. They're there to do just that to food, but they end up doing it to your own body, your own intestines. And so many people are unknowingly eating this daily, over and over and over for years. And when that barrier gets too thin, the bacteria that are there to protect you end up getting through into the bloodstream. And your immune system is going to look at it like a pathogen and tag it as a bad guy. And now we get what's called an immune reaction, AKA gut inflammation. And at first it starts as a low-grade, constant, simmering inflammation. But over time, if you keep inflaming it, it gets worse and worse and worse until it starts to wear down the inside of your colon. And then from there, you get scar tissue, and then you have problems absorbing nutrients. There are many downstream consequences of this that go way beyond just the feeling of bloating. Because whatever's going on in your gut, you're going to feel up here as well. So you might feel brain fog. You might feel very heavy and sluggish and can't really think clearly after you eat. The things that you used to eat now bother you. And so it's really not always about the food. It's about certain ingredients in food, or if you want to call it that, that can actually start this process. So a lot of people ask me, what supplements do I recommend? Now, of course, I'm not biased of my own high quality supplement line, but if you go to Amazon and type Dr. Berg supplements, you'll find more information. So in animal studies, one of the biggest common emulsifiers is something called polysorbate 80. In some of the animal studies, they develop a metabolic syndrome, they gain weight, they have blood sugar problems, and also altered gut bacteria. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of these are animal studies, not human studies. We actually don't have a 20-year human trial. But here's what we do have. We do have a controlled human trial published in 2024 that found just from 2 weeks of eating food with an emulsifier, the participants had altered gut microbiomes, and the bacteria move closer to the intestinal lining. That's just 2 weeks. I mean, even in the last 20 years, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, has doubled. Autoimmune diseases are skyrocketing right now, and a lot of those start in the gut, especially in countries where they adopted ultra-processed foods. So is that the proof that emulsifiers cause all of this? No, But it isn't a coincidence that gut diseases are exploding after the exact same emulsifier consumption is also exploding. The next question is, why do we have these chemicals in our food? In the United States, food additives can be classified as generally recognized as safe. It's called GROS. And the part of this that should bother you is that GROS is a loophole. Companies can self-certify their own ingredients as safe. They've never been through third-party safety trials at all. And so when you hear this, oh yeah, they're generally recognized as safe, and think, oh yeah, good, I can eat them, don't buy into that. They do not have to submit to the FDA any long-term human trials. They don't even have to test chronic gut exposure. In many cases, the FDA doesn't even review their data. Most of these emulsifiers were approved decades ago based on short-term toxicity studies. The question they wanted to know is, does this create poisoning immediately? If not, it's safe. They never asked the question, if someone eats this, 3 times a day for a decade, what happens? But this is just how our system is right now. Hopefully RFK Jr. is going to get rid of this gross loophole. What really bothers me is children consume ultra-processed foods the most out of any age group. In fact, we start our infants out with infant formula, which is equivalent to junk food. When your child consumes cereal with milk and a granola bar and crackers and chicken nuggets and an ice cream dessert, just realize they're getting this emulsifier, but they're also getting a lot of other things that are really bad as well. I have a simple solution for you. Instead of reading all the ingredients on the ultra-processed foods and spending all that time trying to find out if there's emulsifiers, just don't eat ultra-processed food. In fact, don't even buy it. Don't even keep it in your pantry or your refrigerator, because when you're tired, hungry, or stressed, you're going to be going for it. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I do have an addiction to potato chips, and I have my wife's agreement that we don't buy them, we don't keep them in the house, or else I will consume them late at night when she's not around. So instead of trying to battle this with willpower and discipline, just change your environment and make sure it's not in the house. Because if it's not in the house, you'd have to drive to the store, and you probably are not going to do that. Now that you know what destroys the gut lining, let's now talk about what will correct and repair the gut lining in this video right here. Check it out. This is going to blow you away. To be able to look inside your foods to identify the source of most chronic health problems. So check this out. Let's start with some granola bars. Do a little scan. Wow, 28% sugar, 15% seed oil, and 41% starch. Let's go with Cheetos. Do a little scan. Boom. Oh, look at that. 0 sugar, but 35% seed oils and 52% starch. Let's see what's in Coca-Cola. Do a little scan. It's all sugar. No surprises there. And of course, high fructose corn syrup sugar. Let's try some healthy cereal, Lucky Charms. Do a little scan on the barcode and wow, 40% sugar, 40% starch. And by the way, starch is hidden sugar. Let's look at mayonnaise. Do a little scan. Yeah, I'm not surprised. 82% seed oils. Let's check out Nature's Own white bread. Do a little scan. 57% starch, 4% seed oils, and 6% sugar. The biggest realization I had in this project was that the great majority of all junk food, this stuff right here, mostly is 3 simple ingredients. Sugar right here, okay, sugar. Then we have the starches, right? But not just any starch, highly industrial processed cornstarch. And then my favorite is seed oils. These are the 3 ingredients. And we're not talking like really healthy seed oils. We're talking about seed oils that are so rancid, so oxidized, they're going to go into your cell membranes and create a lot of inflammation. And if you were to eat this right now, this disgusting mixture, you would probably vomit. What they had to do was they had to add artificial flavors. Then they would have to add colorings to it. And then they have to put some chemicals to preserve it, and then more chemicals to make you keep eating it, called MSG. And what's interesting about this slop is there's barely any protein. And one reason they don't put protein is that protein is satisfying. So without protein, it's going to make you want to keep eating it over and over and over again. But to get you to buy this, we have to create incredible packaging. Look at how amazing, look at the colors, look at how beautiful that is. Beautiful rainbow colors. Look at little Debbie right there. Wow, that looks good. I used to live on these. In order to be food, it has to be able to sustain life. The big problem with processed foods, ultra-processed foods, junk foods, is that they're just basically dead. There's no longer any phytonutrients or vitamins or minerals. They have to add some of those in later, and they're basically synthetic. They just put a couple more vitamins in there because if they didn't, you would develop all sorts of diseases. Like a vitamin B3 deficiency is called pellagra, where your skin looks like leprosy. Junk food does not fit the definition of actual food. There's another thing that I think a person needs to put on the radar, and that has to do with starches. Starch is a chain of sugar molecules. And when you process it, heating it, grinding it, putting chemicals in it, that starch, now that it's become severely altered or manipulated, will act worse than sugar. In this app that you can download for free, you'll be able to quickly identify not just the sugar, but the hidden sugars. And just to point on this heart-healthy seed oils, the problem with these oils is they actually get lodged in your membranes. It's in the organs, it's in your brain. The problem is now it's going to take about 1.5 years to get that out of the body. If you were to use this app to identify these 3 things in your pantry and your refrigerator and avoid them, your health benefits would be amazing. The average person consumes over 100 pounds of starch, refined starches in the form of modified food starch, maltodextrin, modified cornstarch. They feed this stuff to babies in infant formula. It's in your pet food. It makes up a huge percentage, over 60% of your teenagers' calories. And when we talk about seed oils, an average person consumes 70 pounds of seed oils every single year. Unfortunately, it's the last thing to be evaluated when you go to the doctor. They don't look at what you are eating. It's the missing piece of the puzzle. Yes, we have alcohol and smoking, but when you get into the quantity of sugar, starches, and seed oils, the magnitude of what that does to our bodies compared to everything else is off the chart. Simply download this free app, start using it, give me feedback, tell me how you like it. We're going to be doing phase 2 and phase 3. We're going to add a lot of cool things to it. There will also be a link to another page that'll allow you to see the substitute foods of the junk foods. That way you can replace them. I gave you a lot of options that you can get at any grocery store. So check this out. The single worst advice that I think we were given is this concept of everything in moderation. There is no one bad food. That was like the absolute worst advice because there's certain foods that are much worse than others. We're going to help you understand the 3 terrible foods that you must avoid to get healthy. I did this video with a neighbor friend named Bill, which I did not release yet, where I went inside his house and evaluated all of his food. We then looked at every single ingredient on each food item. And I had to manually teach him the difference between junk food and real food, which took a very long time. I mean, memorizing every single ingredient is just overwhelming for the average person. So I created this intuitive app that makes the process super simple, almost like having me, Dr. Berg, in your pocket at any given time to help you figure out what to eat and what to avoid. The goal with this app is to make everyone aware of the 3 deadly ingredients and to get people off industrial processed foods and get them on whole food. Download the app right now, sign up, start using it, share it with your friends. This is a really important tool to help people identify the root cause of a lot of health problems. And if you wanted to see a good video on some really basic important foods to eat, you should check this video out right here.
Cancer's getting meaner, and it ain't never been fun. Supposed to get you when you're old and not get you when you're young. Cancer's always been depressing, it ain't ever been pleasant. And don't care if you're royal, don't care if you're a peasant. Although what causes it? Everything you ate, the sleep you didn't get, your job in the air and the water in your bed, the sun and red meat, all the fishes in the sea. They're all a bunch of can't take a risk, cancer causing carcinogenic SOBs. It's like them apocalyptic folks off the newer Mad Max. Santa Claus delivered all the cancer in your ass, but it's from the purple ketchup, the BPA's and microplastics. Just hope it don't go mistastic. It's meaner than the meanest to the rumors. It's your own personalized pan Pizza Hut homegrown little tumor. Alright. It'll make an atheist plead with God, a hardcore bumper sticker Christian give up. Mon Santa Claus is a check in his list, and the cancer don't give a fuck. Cancer of the head, shoulders, knees, and toes. I wish I had the patent on the cancer screening. I'd be printing cancer dough. Cancer is as lucrative a business as a war. So if you ain't expecting peace, then why expect a cure?
Let's have a look at this report that seems to suggest that Lunchables, which is, a product directly created for kids, has got lead in it.
Consumer Reports is asking school cafeterias all across this country to stop giving students Lunchables. Those are packaged food items that generally are really popular with kids, but the watchdog group says it tested them and found that some Lunchables contain potentially dangerous levels of harmful contaminants. Nancy Chen has been looking into this for us. Nancy, good morning.
Nancy, is it true that Lunchables contain lead? Nancy, yes, it is true. We're poisoning children now. In fact, this is merely a more extreme example of something that is endemic and indeed normalized. To give children the amount of sodium and sugar that we do amounts to poisoning, but it's all a glorious circle of life. If you keep feeding kids shoddy, dreadful food, then you can, of course, heal them using equally shoddy and potentially ineffective medicines, and the circle of life or death continues. Well, thank you, Nancy. That was an unanticipated answer. Thanks for joining us.
EU Lunchables have really been a longtime staple in lunchboxes across the country, but Consumer Reports, an independent nonprofit group, issued a scathing assessment of the lunch kits, saying, quote, "We don't think anybody should regularly eat these products."
Great. You don't. It's food. That's not something you want to hear about. Food. Should it? All food should be edible. That's the minimum requirement for food. Is this food edible? Well, I mean, you can put it in your mouth and break it down with your teeth and swallow it. So, yes.
This came after testing that allegedly found some store-bought versions contained high levels of heavy metals, lead and cadmium. They can cause developmental issues in children, even in small doses. The study also found concerning amounts of sodium as well as phthalates, chemicals used in plastic packaging.
Come on, man. It's just getting out of control, isn't it? Poisoning children. Yeah, it's high levels of sodium, phthalates, lead, cadmium. These are the type of stories that breach the surface, are discernible, demonstrable, and easily corroborated, that make me more willing to listen to and consider more outlandish theories about, for example, I don't know, chemtrails or things in the water. I mean, there is such sort of negligence, disregard, and occasionally malfeasance present in big food, big pharma, and the kind of systemic abuses that pass masked continually through our lives, that how can you just outright say, oh no, that's ridiculous? Just seems at least worthy of contemplation that this is systemic, deliberate, if not just the inert practices of a careless system. Man, I don't know if I can even watch the rest of this. Let me try.
Are also known hormone disruptors. Last year, after changing some of the nutritional content, Lunchables were allowed into the National School Lunch Program for the first time, giving tens of millions of children access.
Someone lobbied to get it permitted to be in the school lunch program so that it could be some great catering company's deal to put Lunchables into school catering so they can buy it en masse and profit. Someone got lobbied, someone got biased, and no one at any point stopped. In a sensible and sane world that you can imagine just on the periphery of your mind, you just go, don't make that product anymore. Do you know what we should do, actually? Right, what we should do is we should feed children food that's either been grown or hunted or otherwise harnessed from the area that we're all living in. That might mean that there are less opportunities for profit. But let's focus all of our attention on localization. Let's for a minute stop regarding everything solely from a materialistic perspective. Lunchables is the pinnacle of the pyramid of commodity that we all lay sprawled upon, the base of your spine pierced, you spread-eagled and hopeless, pummeled by a system of deep, deep loathing. And the only way down from this crucifix, and maybe Jesus, maybe we should just stay on it, is to awaken. immediately.
On a near daily basis. Now Consumer Reports is calling on the Department of Agriculture to remove Lunchables from schools. In a statement, Kraft Heinz, which owns Lunchables, defended the product, saying it meets strict safety standards.
Got very strict safety standards, and they include cadmium and lead being edible for children. Also, occasionally, I mean, what do you ejaculate into that stuff? I mean, what if that passes the test? What is the test?
The company added that lead and cadmium occur naturally in the environment and could be present in low levels in food products. But this is a staple for so many families because they're so easy to pack.
Yes. Well, yeah, or in this case, it's taxpayers funding the lunches going to low-income kids.
Brilliant. There's a point where you have to just stand back and applaud. Taxpayers are participating in the poisoning of working class children. Amazing. It's actually costing you money. They've found a way to make poisoning children profitable, double profitable, because they'll profit when these kids grow up diabetic and full of heart disease. When they're obese at bare minimum, they've got a drug for that now. Christ help us. For God's sake, let us all become radicalized. I wonder if Kraft spend any money on legacy media outlets. I wonder if sometimes between these shows you see Kraft going, hey, if you don't have time to feed your children food that doesn't have lead in it, how about some food that does have lead in it? The truth is that if you are a parent, and I am, sometimes you think, well, you know, maybe a little bit of lead will calm them down. But the simple solution is change your economic and political and social model. Like, this is it. This is what I'll say to you. Wisdom is acting on knowledge. On the day that you find out that Lunchables has lead in it, we're banning that. We're never doing that again. Shut that shit down. What's the reason we're doing it? Oh, lobbying, donations, because Kraft advertising and legacy media. Oh, great. Well, God, let's break down all of those monopolies. Let's no longer permit that. Let's certainly not use taxpayer dollars to subsidize it. Let's, from now on, have democracy available at the smallest level of subsidiarity, that people control their own lives and their own communities. That way, if there are cultural, religious differences or differences of traditionalism versus progressivism, they'll be nullified and irrelevant, because in one state people can believe in this and in another state people can believe in something else. But what we should believe in every single state is don't poison your children just because it's profitable.
Consumer Reports saying it's hurting those kids.
Especially if you're a mom, Nancy, that's not making the sandwiches and putting them in the paper bag. Hello, my name is Gail. They were very easy breezy. Yeah.
I ate all of them growing up.
Hope they can figure that out.
Lunchables says they're meeting the standards. The question is, are those standards sufficient?
Yes.
Very, very concerning. All right, Nancy, thank you.
Who sets the standards, and do the people that set those standards receive revenue from Kraft or other processed food organizations? I think you know the answer to all of those questions. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech...
Well, California is taking new steps to limit ultra-processed foods in school meals, but some say rules alone won't fix what kids are eating. ABC 10 News reporter Olivia Gonzalez-Britt explains what else needs to change.
Cheetos and Doritos may be dropping their artificial flavors and dyes, but they'll still be considered ultra-processed foods. And as trends show that kids are consuming most of their calories from foods in this category, California schools are trying to change what goes into their lunch boxes.
They're tasty, but we all know they're not good for you.
The foods in this category have links with obesity, inflammation, and then also disruption of the gut microbiome.
We're talking about sugary drinks, packaged snacks, processed meats, all of which are high in salt, sugar, fat, and preservatives. And data shows adults and kids get more than half their daily calories from the very top of this pyramid. Foods we don't actually need, but choose for convenience.
It's really hard to skip out on convenience-related foods.
Kids are still choosing the less healthy options, and the results are showing. Childhood obesity has climbed to nearly 1 in 5 nationwide, a trend doctors are worried about, and something community members like Ellie Igo are trying to change. At Food Shed San Diego, the mission is simple: bringing more local, fresh food into the community.
Less than 1% of what we grow is actually consumed here in San Diego County. We've subsidized an
industrial cheap food industry that's put small farmers out of business and had an incredible toll on our community health.
Foodshed sources from 60 small farms, distributes to underserved neighborhoods and schools, and pushes for bigger changes.
We really need to invest public resources in our local food supply chain so that economy of scale starts to tip, right? Fewer subsidies for big agricultural commodities and more for fruit and veggie growers in our communities.
Starting next month, a new California law will phase out certain ultra-processed foods from school meals. But Ellie says policy alone isn't enough. Schools need the supply to match.
So we really have to move in lockstep with investments in farms so that our policies match up and our businesses and our communities can actually really have the resources to change behavior.
For ABC 10 News, I'm Olivia Gonzalez-Britt.
So how old were you when you started to eat healthy and then quickly realised that about 95% of the foods in grocery stores are actually terrible for us? And then you found out that big food companies and big pharma actually work together in order to make us sick and profit from our illnesses? Yeah, that's why I started to grow my own food.
With everything that's going on in the world today, it has become so apparent that it is more important than ever to be growing lots of good quality food in your own garden so that you've got something if there is food shortages or even just with the high fuel prices and food prices. So I want to go over 5 things that I think are super important to be growing in your survival garden, tell you why we like them and how we use them.
White potatoes are the first thing on our list. White potatoes are super easy to grow, at least in my opinion. Very little pest control for us. I know some people have lots of problems with potato beetles. We don't have that here. You can store them in a nice cool basement, or you can store them in a root cellar like we do. For years I just stored them in my basement. You might have to pick off the sprouts every now and then throughout the winter. They're very nutritious and filling. You can sit down and eat a potato with butter and salt and feel very satisfied.
So what makes one vegetable worthy of being in a survival garden over another? The criteria that we give for vegetables being grown in a survival garden is that they require no canning or freezing, they store very well, that they are easy to grow, they don't require a lot of pest control, and they're very nutritious and filling so that you can make like a whole meal out of just like 1 or 2 things.
Sweet potatoes are actually, I think they're even easier to grow than white potatoes, especially if you get the kind where the potatoes are all at the base of the plant. Because all these root vegetables grow in the ground, they are directly against the soil and they're soaking up all of those minerals. The orange color is awesome. That shows you that there's lots of vitamins. You can cure them before you put them in your root cellar or basement. Honestly, I don't. And they still store all winter long. One thing I really want to get across in this video is that survival food is going to look different from one family to another family. What I mean by that is, like, if white potatoes aren't working for you in your climate, and then scratch those and try a different root vegetable that's equally nutritious, that you can grow in abundance and be a success with. If you just push through with, let's say, white potatoes, you'll end up with not much at the end of the year. If you'd be a pioneer, you'd starve. Don't let your ideals and what you think needs to happen keep you from actually being a success. So this is one of our 2 carrot beds. I grow lots of carrots because carrots store really well if you throw them in a plastic bag and stick them in your fridge. At this point, I haven't tried them in my root cellar yet. It's just so easy to put them in my fridge. One thing that I really focus on with carrots is I thin them meticulously. Like, every single one I thin to at least 1 inch or 1.5 inches apart. For carrots, just like any other vegetable that you want to store, like onions, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, you want the actual vegetable to be big. The bigger it is, the better it will store. That's a huge key for survival food. Carrots are super nutritious and I use them in like everything. Like pretty much every soup that I make, soup and stew, will have carrots in it.
We grow lots of greens. This is a raised bed in front of our house that's full of greens. We also grow lots of tomatoes, onions, and lots of stuff like that. But the reason they're not in our survival food list is because while those are really good things to have in your garden, really good things to grow, they're not going to be something that's going to store really well. You're not going to be eating those greens in the middle of the winter that you grew in the summer. You're not going to be making a whole meal out of some kind of tomato sauce. That's something good that's to go along with the food that you have and it's a good thing to grow and to can and to store and things like that, but it's not gonna be your survival food, if you wanna put it that way.
Okay, this is our garlic bed, and I'm including garlic in my survival garden just simply because it is so incredibly healing. It is basically an antibiotic in vegetable form, and we use it for our cow if she gets mastitis. We use it for ourselves when we get colds, and so it's not going to be really filling, but because it is so nutritious and healing, we have this in our survival garden.
We grow a lot of raspberries. We pick gallons and gallons of those during the summer. We grow lots of strawberries. Insanely delicious. Fresh strawberries are incredible. We planted some currant bushes last year, and it looks like we'll be getting a harvest this year. We're excited about that, to be able to try in some jams, maybe some pies. We use strawberries and raspberries in jams, and that kind of stuff is really good to have in store. Perennial fruit is awesome to have on your homestead, but again, it's not in that like top 5 list for survival foods for your garden.
Butternut squash is one of my very favorite survival foods because it stores so incredibly well. It literally, you can put it in the root cellar or a cool basement and it will last like for an entire year. I mean, you can bring your squash back upstairs and it looks just like it did when you put it down there. They do have some disease and pest problems. We just do our best, and usually the fruit is ripe before the plant is dead. So we call that a win. Butternut squash is really nutritious. There again, you've got that deep orange color. I make pumpkin pies, I make squash soup. I make all sorts of stuff with butternut squash, which is why it's so cool. You can make desserts with it as well as savory dishes.
There's a lot of things you can grow in your garden, a lot of things you should grow because it's insanely good food, very nutritious, way better than anything you're gonna get from the store. But if you're wanting to grow a survival garden, you're wanting to have the main things, maybe you just have a small amount of space, maybe you only have a limited amount of time. While these things can be fun to grow and really good and tasty to eat, it's not the most important things to put in your garden.
Knowing what to grow and how to grow it are two different things. If you'd like to know how we grow some of this stuff, check out this video right here. Is that it? Yes.
Hi everyone, Miss Silla here at Learn to Grow up in the Pacific Northwest Zone 8B. So this video is about regrowing vegetable scraps for more leafy greens and even seeds, so you can get more leafy greens for free and also free seeds. And it's such a great activity that you can also do with your kids at home. So I started the scraps about 4 weeks ago. So this video was recorded in a duration of 4 weeks. So the scraps were started indoors in water, and I eventually transplanted them or planted them in containers outdoors. Now some scraps I planted them directly in containers outdoors. And also just a side note, when you're regrowing an onion scrap, you will not get the same big onion bulb like you would in its first season. Instead, it'll develop a smaller bulb, but it will eventually start to send a flower stalk, and the flower stalk will produce seeds for you.
Day update. Check out the growth and the roots on some of these scraps. This is a pineapple top and a piece of potato. So I actually have a pineapple plant that's about nearly 3 years old, and it was started from another top scrap just like this one. So I usually just submerge it in water, and once these little roots get to about 1/2 inch to 1 inch long, you can go ahead and plant it in a pot. And I use a cactus potting mix. Now potato pieces, just make sure each piece has at least 2 to 3 eyes. These are the eyes that will grow new plants for you, and you'll get new tubers or potatoes in about 3 to 4 months, depending on the variety. Now just make sure each piece is about 1.5 inches thick, about the size of a golf ball. Here's a celery, leek, and check out the roots of this one. Spring onions, they're about 12 inches tall now. Bok choy, check out the romaine lettuce, And here are the onions. I have a second one growing there that I cut lengthwise about a week ago, and it's doing much better. Look at all those roots. Since I didn't cut the top off entirely like this one, it has more stored energy that this little plant will feed from, and eventually it'll shoot out the leaf blades on top. Here are the carrots, and there are some roots in there too. Look at that. There's tiny ones in that orange one. Check out the roots on this bok choy scrap. Nice leaves. Here is the leek scrap. Look at those roots. So these are all vegetable scraps except these rosemary cuttings that I'm trying to root. Now, if you ever buy those packs of herbs from the grocery store, you can propagate those as well, root them, and you'll get some free plants. So I've got some spring onions. These were planted about, I think, 3 days ago now. These were planted about, I believe, 7 days ago. And some of them have been here for about, I think, 2 weeks. And you can keep harvesting these leafy greens about 3 to 4 times before they start to set flower and then go to seed. These are the onion scraps. So again, more leafy greens that you can get from them. Celery bottoms, get to harvest some of these leafy greens and stalks before it sets flowers. And I've got this bok choy scrap that's actually starting to flower, so I'm going to let this keep growing and produce some seed pods for me, so we'll get some free seeds. So these scraps were planted last fall. This one is spring onions, and it is sending out a flower stalk. So we'll get some seeds from that. This one is celery. Look at that, guys. Check out all the stalks. So this celery overwintered when I planted it. I think it was back in October, and it's just starting to produce more foliage. But you can harvest these greens and foliage. Look at that, guys. And again, it'll send a flower stalk, and we'll get some seeds. So it's been about 3.5 weeks since I planted the scraps in this container. Unfortunately, something's eating the bok choy, but you can see that the celery scrap has grown. Lots of leaves, carrot tops, spring onions, onion scraps, and the leek was dug up by a squirrel, so that one died. And the romaine lettuce was dug up as well. These carrot flowers produced some seeds for us last year. We also got some seeds from onion flowers last year that were grown from scraps. So here's the pineapple plant that I started 3 years ago from a pineapple top scrap. Look at this. It is over 3 feet tall, so we might get a fruit this year, if not, hopefully next year.
Do you hear the sound of a bell? Did you wish your family well? Times ain't the same in the neighborhood. Got the parents all going through hell, 'cause the guns keep flying off the shelf. Do you see the man on the street just fighting for a meal to eat? You can write him off as a lunatic, but it could have been you or me if we didn't ever find our feet. Love me now, hold me down, and the government is staying on every foot, and they try to keep us all down. No, they're never gonna keep different kind of grease.